1010XL Kickoff Show, fueled by Sawyer Gas. Presented by Coastal Equipment on 1010XL 92.5 FM. Here are your hosts, Lauren Brooks, Blythe Brumley, and Fat Tony.
Here we go. The 10-5 Jaguars are AFC South champions and are locked in as the 3 seed in the AFC. The Jaguars earned a home playoff game for the first time since the 1999 season, which is already completely sold out for next Saturday or Sunday. We'll try and tell you when we think that game will be in just a minute. There is one more game to go, though, in the regular season as the Jaguars face the Titans up in Nashville today at 4:25 with a chance to knock Tennessee completely out of the playoffs. Good morning, Tony and Blythe. Happy New Year's.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Well, almost New Year's. Happy New Year's Eve.
Whatever it is.
We're
It
almost
might
there.
as well be the new year. Everything feels new this year.
It does. It's a brand new year, a whole new world, right? As Blythe's Disney movies would sing. Head coach Doug Marrone said the team is 100% in on winning this football game. Would y'all be?
On winning, sure. On playing everyone that I thought gave me the best opportunity to beat Tennessee, no, would be the simple answer. For me, look, we've been saying it all week on Jaguars Today. Mike and I have been on the same page. I wouldn't play Blake. I wouldn't play AJ. I wouldn't play Jalen. I wouldn't play Calais. I wouldn't play Fournette. Anybody that I think is super key for me going into the playoffs wouldn't play this week because there's nothing for me to gain from a Jaguars perspective in this game. There's a lot to lose if somebody gets hurt, which is the only negative that can come out of this game to me is somebody getting hurt. That's the only downside to this game.
I heard you say, I think it was either Thursday or Friday, the key to the game is staying healthy. There is no other key to the football
1, 2,
game.
and 3.
Just stay healthy.
1, 2, and 3.
What
Nothing
about
else
you,
matters.
Blythe? You remember 1999. You know this story that people don't want to repeat as far as playing the Titans for a third time and in that wild card game. What do you think?
I mean, me as a fan, I want to rip the heart out of the Titans, sort of Kalima style from Indiana Jones. Any of my friends out there who are typical Doom fans. But from a Jaguars perspective and playing for the postseason, I think it's more situational with each player. And then at the point of the game, if it's a blowout on either side, I want to see Hearns get some reps just to get the rust off of them. And then with the other guys, I think you give them a few reps and then you get them out of the game. It's situational for each player and based off of how the game's going.
And see, the one person that I think still needs to play is Blake Bortles. I understand the health perspective, of course, but I do think that last game out, it wasn't a great showing for him, and I'd like to get him back on track, not throw the ball to the other team. Yes, you could argue that some of those interceptions weren't his fault, but at the end of the day, his last performance, there were 3 interceptions. Do y'all trust Blake Bortles?
No, but I didn't trust him going into last week either.
Yeah.
It's not like the 3 games convinced me all of a sudden that he's a franchise quarterback. Which is kind of why I wouldn't play him today, because I look at it and say if something happened to Blake, they're dead. Like Chad Henne gives them no chance; they're dead. If Chad Henne has to start for them in a playoff game, they can't beat anybody. So for me, I just look at it and say Blake's their best chance to win a playoff game. I've heard people talking about the performance last week a lot. It's not like it's even one of Blake's 5 worst performances in a Jaguars uniform. It's not even one of his couple worst performances this season, if you ask me, in that game last week. Blake got him back in the football game, too. The defense didn't help last week against it. They just didn't. For a week, for whatever reason, the defense just didn't show up. They couldn't get the 49ers offense stopped. I get it. The second half, they were put on a bunch of short fields and couldn't get anything done. But we've seen the defense come through in that situation over and over and over and over again this season. They didn't last week for whatever reason, which is why, for me, I look at it and say the idea of an ankle sprain for Blake is a lot scarier to me than having to go into the playoffs with that being the last time he played football. That's a lot scarier to me than the idea of something fluky happening. We've just seen 2 receivers go out this season because they got rolled up on blocks. It had nothing to do with passing game. Had nothing to do with what was really even happening on the play. It just happens in the NFL. You know when it can happen? When he's standing over on the sideline. That's where he's not going to get hurt, which is why he wouldn't play today for me.
So when Doug Marrone said that, they're all in on winning the football game, everybody's going to play, any chance you think we don't see some of the starters?
I don't know. We have no idea how Doug Marrone wants to handle this kind of situation. So it's all kind of new territory going into this one. I wasn't surprised at his comments early in the week saying, look, we're going to try to win the game. Well, of course you are. The guys you put on the field ought to be going as hard as they possibly can because they're going to get hurt if they're not. Right? I also heard the thing where if your motto is going to be win lunch, well, the guys in the room aren't idiots. They know the lunch that matters is next week. this one really is meaningless when everything is said and done for the Jags. So if you go to those guys and you say to Leonard and Jalen and AJ, you say, look, we get it. We want to win lunch every week. Next week is lunch. This is just an appetizer. Next week is lunch. They're not dumb. It's not like you're scaling back the message that you sent the team and have been sending all year. They know what is important and what is not important in the big scheme of things. So I don't know. It's all a mystery to me. I can only tell you how I would handle it. It sounds like they're going to handle it differently, and I hope they're right. Like I hope they're right and nothing bad happens today.
Yeah, me too. Playoff tickets went on sale to the general public at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, sold out in 1 hour and 1 minute. Then the Jaguars were able to get the tarps removed, thanks to the NFL and the sponsors. 3,501 tickets went on sale. Those sold out in 6 minutes. Then standing room only tickets sold out in about 30 minutes. Blythe, were you surprised at how quickly they went?
No, because this fan base has been yearning for something like this for nearly a decade. I mean, I can remember sitting in the stands in 2009 when Wayne Reaver, the old owner, and Tony Baselli and several other key members of the Jaguars organization held a meeting at Everbank Field talking about how fans needed to sort of rally their friends in order to sell tickets, in order to keep the team in Jacksonville. We all know about the story with the ownership change. And so to see the changes in the organization from 2009 until then, fans have been saying all along that if this team just starts winning, then the fans are going to be rabid, and that's exactly what we saw. And I'm personally excited just to feel how loud that Everbank is going to be, because when I was younger, I didn't know, I was sort of too young to sort of grasp the significance of a home playoff game or even the 99 season. But
well, the Jaguars have been good all along, so we didn't know that you could suck for this long.
And then to see sort of the team come back, and not just from an organizational standpoint, but also on the field as well, it's something that this fan base has waited a long time for, and to be able to feel that energy come next week is going to be something that I think that most fans will remember for the rest of their lives.
I agree, and I believe you'll be the person going, all right, that person has had season tickets, that person has had season tickets.
We've been taking inventory.
All right, the question I've been asked all week long, what day and time will the game be? So, we have no idea. We won't know until tonight around 8 o'clock. But your best guess, Tony, is Saturday at 4:30.
Yeah! Right? I hope it's Saturday because that's my birthday.
And as long as the Jaguars win, it will be a fantastic birthday. But yeah, so it doesn't look like it'll be the Saturday night game because that's the primetime game. And it doesn't look like it'll be either of the Sunday options. So, therefore, it should be the Saturday at 4:30, right?
Well, I think Ryan O'Halloran was saying on Jaguars Today that the NFC has both late game slots on Saturday. The NFC has
both late game windows. So, the Jags will be playing Saturday at 4:30 or Sunday at 1. And if you've looked at the trend for the last several years, they kind of put the newest or, what they consider to be the smallest market on that Saturday at 4:30. They usually open up the playoffs, whatever they consider to be the least important game, which, look, you can take it as offense if you want. That's fine. It wouldn't be the first time that the nation has tried to laugh at you, Jacksonville, about what's going on.
They're trying to laugh at us this week.
Right. Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time. It won't be the last time. Who cares? You're playing a playoff game. And honestly, if I had my druthers of any of those windows, I'd like Saturday at 4:30.
Yes.
Me too.
If I had my personal choice, that's when I'd want to play.
So I've been saying all season I wanted to be in Nashville for this game. Now that I see the temperatures, I'm not so sure. Blythe, exactly how cold is it up there?
The kickoff temperature is going to be 21 degrees, and it's going to feel like between 12 and 14 degrees. It's going to be sunny until sundown. Since it's a 4:25 p.m. kickoff, the sun isn't going to be around for very long.
Oh my goodness! Yesterday at the Tax Slayer Bowl, it was in the upper 40s, and I thought it was so cold. That's not the teens. Like, I don't think there are Floridians that are up there right now, Jaguars fans, that some of them, this could be the coldest weather they've ever been in.
I don't know how you stay warm during that kind of stuff. Is it possible?
Whiskey. That's the only thing
From a tailgating perspective, I don't know. From a player's perspective, get used to it. If they're going to make a run in the playoffs at this point, it's going to have to be likely at Pittsburgh, at New England. That's the path for the Jacksonville Jaguars at this point, in all likelihood, unless someone were to upset the Patriots before you got to them, if the Jags do win in Wild Card Weekend. So cold weather this weekend, cold weather for 3 of the next 4 weeks, if you ask me. Bring it on.
Bring it on, yeah, because we'll be here, and we won't be actually in that. A year ago on Christmas Eve, the Jaguars knocked the Titans out of the playoffs, and today on New Year's Eve, the Jaguars can knock them out again. Blythe, do you think the players hate the Titans as much as the fans do?
No, I don't think so. It's much more deeply rooted with Jaguar fans than players, I would think. And like historical stats and things like that, I don't think matter whatsoever to the team. Maybe Mercedes Lewis is the only player on the team that could probably have some hatred for the Titans, but other than fans, I don't know that it resonates as much within the players.
Yeah, to me, as a fan of college football my whole life, I do feel that with rivalries in college. It doesn't seem like the NFL has quite the amount of hatred. Like it does seem that they all understand they're all being paid. It's a business. You don't see that that level to me that's quite like college. But if there is one, if everything was on the line today, then I think we might see it. How much do you think the coaches focus this week on the players kind of keeping level heads during a football game like this?
I think they have to, not because it's a football game like this, but because the big scoring drive in the second half last week for the 49ers was aided by 30 free yards because guys were being idiots. They can't throw flags if you don't do stuff.
Right.
Like they weren't phantom penalties. Maybe there are things that you're like, well, I see that happen a lot in the NFL and they don't throw a flag. Well, they can. On those other things where you don't see them throw the flag, they still can. And they choose not to. Maybe in some of those moments they chose to last week. This is a football team that they are edgy. We've been talking about it all year long. This is an edgy football team. They play. They walk right up to it. Last week they walked over the edge. And they can't play on that side of it. And it'll be interesting to see, like I said, for me, a lot of the key guys wouldn't even be playing defensively for the Jags today. But it'll be interesting to see where they are emotionally for this game, considering it means nothing. For what happens in that locker room. I know the fans feel the rivalry. Like we just said, I don't think the players feel the rivalry with the Tennessee Titans. They'll feel it if things work out here in the next couple weeks. Like if they play a playoff game here next week, obviously they'll be feeling it. And I'm curious to see where they are emotionally, not because it's a rivalry game, but because of what we've seen this team do this year. They play right up to that line, and we've seen a couple opponents walk over the line because of the way the Jags play. We saw A.J. Green lose his mind on the football field because of what Jalen did to him. We saw the Seahawks lose their mind because of the edge that the Jaguars play with. Last week, the Jags were on the wrong side of it. And if they get on the wrong side of it next week, they'll be going home early. It can't happen anymore for the rest of this season. Play to the edge, push your opponents over it. Don't be the team that's just falling off the cliff.
Yeah, the one penalty that I thought was completely erroneous was the Miles Jack one. I didn't think that was really taunting because supposedly he didn't say anything. But other than that, right, I agree with you.
But you don't go stand over there. You don't throw a flag.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be stupid. Week 17 is the hardest to predict for fantasy football, so keep it right here for Tony's expert advice. That's coming up next on 1010XL.
Keep up with what's happening in Bulldog Country. I'm Andrew Gibson. Catch my Georgia Bulldog football reports on 1010XL. Brought to you by Colhane's Irish Pub in Atlantic Beach.
Yeah.
They're still playing.
I think they ended today. I think the deal was
Known worldwide as a leading seller of compact tractors and diesel utility vehicles, Kubota has the equipment to help you get your work done. With a variety of tractors and a range of horsepower options, Kubota delivers the efficiency, power, and comfort to handle light construction, landscape.
I did. First time Mike White has ever beaten Vanderbilt.
I didn't even know the result until you said it.
Florida had a 5-game losing streak to Vanderbilt until yesterday.
Don't let your next tailgate party go
It was from Florida.
When saw Jumanji.
Okay, Donna went inside.
It was fun.
She liked it.
And then went and had dinner.
That's allowed.
And then I played FIFA. I didn't, like, I worked the Tax Slayer Bowl here for Touchdown Radio.
Yeah, I heard you. You did a good job every time I was after.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
I didn't feel you after something.
then I went home and did whatever I wanted to. No sports for me. I like the off-season, man.
I'm looking forward to the offseason, but
I'm not
later rather than soon.
Yeah, I'm still in the game. It's fun, like, everywhere I go. Everyone, has positive things to say. Although yesterday the conversation went to a friend's house for a party, and the conversation was definitely like, Blake is awful.
See, I don't think Blake's awful. I don't even think last week he was awful. I really don't.
He wasn't awful.
That's what I think they're telling, like, in the locker room. That's why I wouldn't play him. Like, I don't think they're looking at it the same way the fans are. I don't think they ever have.
You're also right there.
Promoting YouTube.
I still don't think he had a good game.
No, he wasn't.
entire
good, but he wasn't
already
bad.
getting
He's
the
just
lowest
kind of
wholesale prices in town, so why wouldn't you take advantage of a 20%?
Like,
Yeah.
eventually it's going to catch up to you.
It's actually sort of remarkable that he's playing this well without a true number one wide receiver.
I mean, I hope they beat the heck out of Tennessee, but you can beat them without those guys.
I'm mentally
Like, I really think you
prepared.
can beat them without those guys.
I'm mentally prepared for the Jaguars to lose. I'm emotionally prepared for the Jaguars to lose, but I'm still not going to pick them to lose.
Heck, if I was a fan, like honestly, if I was a fan, the way I'd look at it, bring them on next week. Let's beat the ever-loving crap out of them in the playoffs and end
get
this
the
99
right.
forever.
I've thought about that.
That's the way I would look at it.
But
'Cause
all
I think,
week, people are going to be sick
Oh, I know.
to their stomach.
I think if the Titans come here in the playoffs, the Jags beat them by 2 touchdowns.
I
I think they're that
If
much
they
better.
came here for the playoffs, I don't. Like, I'm already hyperventilating just thinking about it.
It's great. That's the matchup I'd want.
I mean, it's
I'd be sick to my stomach, I think, the whole game.
it's by far the worst team besides, I think, the Bills. But we'll talk about that.
No, I mean, from a matchup standpoint, I'd want the Bills. From an emotional standpoint, give me the Titans.
I'll be stressed all week.
I'll beat the crap out of
I'll
them.
be stressed all week no matter who the opponent is. I mean, everyone keeps saying, like, you don't want to play the Ravens, and I'm like,
I don't care.
Fuck
about
the Ravens,
They
bring
can't
'em on.
44-7.
They can't score.
And it shouldn't have even been 7. That
Right.
touchdown was in the fourth
I was
quarter.
about to say, if there's a team you don't want, it's the Chargers.
Yeah.
Correct. Which
Are
I've
they-
been saying since Thanksgiving, because I remember on Thanksgiving Day at my parents' house, I was
Phillip
like, we're all
Rivers is a
cheering for the
boogeyman.
Cowboys to beat the Chargers, and everyone's
Right.
like, I don't like the Cowboys. I was like, you don't want to play the Chargers. You don't
They
understand.
should have beat you the first time. in your building.
Correct. AJ Boye is the only reason they didn't. That was the one time all season that I should have
And by the
known
way,
that in the
as
press box.
great as this defense has been, they're 1 point better on the year than the Chargers defense. 1 point. The Jags are giving up 16. The Chargers are giving up 17.
What was it before last week's
14
game?
17. It was a
That's
field
what I
goal.
thought. Okay.
It's a point. That I don't want any piece of that. Let
No.
them go. Like,
Yeah. They have the better quarterback, and they have a better tandem of defensive linemen, I think. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can put Calais and Williams in there, but...
Yeah, I don't want any piece of the Chargers.
So the question I
Which
asked...
to me, that's again, like, I look at beating the Titans, I'm like, then you got to play the Chargers. I don't want to play the Chargers.
That's the other thing, right.
Like, the Chargers are going to beat Oakland.
So
I
the-
don't want them.
The Chargers are in if the Titans lose
And they win.
and they win.
Yeah.
So, right.
The Titans could lose today and still get in.
Yeah, they have two scenarios. With,
Yeah, the
If they lost and
Ravens
the-
and the Bills.
Well, they could move to the 5.
Yeah.
But the Titans would get in with a loss and a combination. I think it's the Ravens and Chargers or the Chargers and Bills. They'd still get in.
Yeah, Bills and Chargers. Thank you.
I don't want the Chargers. I'll tell you right now. If
Yeah.
laying down today meant I get Tennessee instead of the Chargers, I'd do it
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. Which is, I think we'll see all the starters play the first drive, and that's about it.
I would like. What's the point
You
of that?
said if I'm hot or cold. What?
What's the point of that?
10 seconds.
Because it shows that he's not lying. That's about the only thing.
Well, I think you can put guys out there playing to win.
Here we go.
Who's a bust? Here's Tony Smith with your fantasy football final.
Man, Week 17 championships. I'm involved in a couple of them, and boy, do I hate it. Like, we set it up wrong. I had nothing to do with the setup for the Jaguars Today leagues this year. And for some reason, I blame Tyler because I can. But for some reason, we have Week 17 championships. It's a dual championship, so 16 and 17. Now, in the one league I'm in the championship, I lost last week by 5 points, so I get a chance to bounce back this week. But it also means it's Week 17, so I get a chance to bounce back without Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell. What's the point? It's not even my team anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just a weird week, but let's
But
take a look.
you guys play the 2-week champion, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm down 5. And
That's
this week,
crazy. What league or what system can you do that in? Yahoo or ESPN? Okay.
Yeah, ESPN, you can set it up that way. We wanted to switch it up. It's not going to happen again. We're not doing this Week 17 madness again. But if you happen to be stuck in a Week 17 championship, a little bit of advice. The quarterback position, some big-name guys still playing this week. Tom Brady 1, Russell Wilson 2, Matt Stafford 3, Cam Newton 4, Kirk Cousins I think sneaks in as number 5. He's been really consistent. It's been kind of, Matt Stafford-esque this year from Kirk Cousins. He's been a guy that's been steady top 10. It feels like week to week, so if you get stuck with him in a championship week, I think you could do worse. Phillip Rivers, with them having to play Oakland, that's a good matchup for him this week. Jimmy Garoppolo is probably a top 10 play with the way that he's playing football right now. Beyond that, it gets kind of iffy. Don't know that I'd want to play Drew Brees, but you can. Matt Ryan, just not good enough this year. I'd play Case Keenum, maybe even Jameis Winston and Blake Bortles over him if Blake is actually going to play, which, again, I don't trust anything in Jacksonville.
I don't either.
Keelan Cole would probably be in a lineup for me from a Jaguars perspective. Nothing else would. I don't think this would. Maybe Chris Ivory would be the other guy that I would seriously consider for a lineup this week in a Jaguars uniform. Among the running backs this week, Alvin Kamara 1. He's the one of my big-headed monster that I've still got in the lineup this week. Ezekiel Elliott 2, Mark Ingram 3, LaShawn McCoy 4, and Christian McCaffrey coming in at 5. They are saying Melvin Gordon is going to play today for the Chargers. He is dealing with the ankle injury, so maybe you temper your expectations a little bit with him, with it being championship week. Do really like Devonta Freeman going up against Carolina. Kenyon Drake remains a big volume play. Dion Lewis, the Patriots still need to win to guarantee the 1 spot in the AFC, so they'll still be going after it today against the New York Jets. Derrick Henry, I think, is a big play this week against Jacksonville. The Jags have been a little bit prone to the run. They were prone to it the first time against Tennessee. And DeMarco Murray, dealing with the MCL injury. So how much of him, if they have him active at all, are they really going to put on the field, despite the fact that it's a do-or-die game?
Murray's out.
For the Titans. He is out officially.
For sure, yeah.
Good. Because that means more Henry, and it also means the Titans become a little bit more predictable. The big complaint they have with Henry is that he's not very good in pass protection. Yep. So when Henry comes off the field, likely you can guess pass for the Tennessee Titans today if you're the Jags and you're really concerned about the outcome of today's game. Carlos Hyde, I think, is a pretty good play this week as well. Jordan Howard's been pretty good, but does have a tough matchup this week against Minnesota. Jamal Williams remains a volume play there in the Green Bay offense. Wide receivers, Michael Thomas 1, Julio Jones 2, Keenan Allen 3, A.J. Green 4, Adam Thielen 5. Mike Evans becomes a really good play, again, considering they just don't have a lot of options in that Tampa Bay passing attack. Going up against the Saints, Jarvis Landry remains a volume play as well. Doug Baldwin with Seattle playing for their playoff lives today against Arizona. Larry Fitzgerald, could this be the end of Larry Fitzgerald? This may be the last time we see Larry Fitzgerald play football. Who knows what's happening in Arizona or with the future of Fitz. But going up against Seattle, I think he's a top 10 play this week. Brandon Cooks, I think, is a really good play. Marquise Goodwin, I think, gets back into more of his usual routine that we've seen here for the last month. Not so good against the Jags last week, kind of kept under wraps, especially in the second half of that game. But I expect with the matchup against the Rams and them resting everybody that matters in the game today, that he could have another big week this week. And finally, tight end, Rob Gronkowski 1, Jimmy Graham 2, Greg Olsen 3, Jack Doyle 4, Kyle Rudolph 5, the rest of your top 10. Delaney Walker at 6, going up against the Jags. Antonio Gates at 7, Eric Ebron 8, Vernon Davis 9, and Jason Witten at 10.
All right. Will be interesting to see if Delaney Walker has a big day after we've seen, certainly last week, the 49ers utilize the tight ends against this Jacksonville defense. Now let's get it back to the Jaguars division.
Time now to go around the AFC South.
Today is a battle for last place in the AFC South. Blythe, can you believe the Colts are favored to beat the Texans?
Slightly yes, only because there's so many injuries on that Texans team. But to me, I think the Colts organization and players as a whole are just ready for this season to be over with. They're obviously going to go through a bunch of changes. They don't know if Andrew Luck is still going to be 100% for 2018. Chuck Pagano is probably out tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, maybe even today, as far as head coaching candidates are concerned. They don't really have their eye on anyone just yet, but it's definitely going to be a lot of changes for the Colts coming in. But I still think that they're favored to win today, so they might pull off the victory and then still pull off another victory by getting rid of their head coach tomorrow.
I love the Captain Andrew Luck Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic. So the one that he tweeted out today. Dearest mother, the Texan men shall attack soon. I hope this, the final battle of our long campaign, will end in victory. My men are tired, but brave and ready. One last stand. It's fantastic throughout the season. Tony, reports are out that the Texans are going to keep Bill O'Brien and potentially give him more personnel control. Is that a good move?
We'll see if it's a good move. Look, I think it looks like he may have finally found his quarterback, right? And Deshaun Watson, he's been playing musical chairs with the position since he got there to Houston, but maybe he finally found the guy. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. Look, he's been in a division that was really, really terrible for the last handful of years, and looks like it's not going to be terrible for the foreseeable future. So, how's he going to live in that kind of division for the next 4 or 5 years? I don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea to keep him, and we'll see how good or bad an idea it is with the personnel. You talk about the Colts game today. Looking at the last couple weeks with T.J. Yates in the lineup, if the Colts were to manage 14 points today, that would be good enough to beat the Texans the last 2 weeks.
That's so bad.
They've scored 13 in the last 2 games under T.J. Yates. 45-7 against the Jags, 34-6 last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thanks a lot, Houston, for helping us out in that one last week. But, yeah, I mean, Houston's in a miserable spot. They can't play offense right now. They got DeAndre Hopkins in 0 outside of that going right now offensively. So I would expect the Colts to win and probably win pretty handily today, honestly.
And I think I saw Hopkins has an injury, too, this week.
But their defense, too, on the Texans side, they've given up the most big plays in the league. So T.Y. Hilton on the Colts side should have a pretty good game, no matter who's throwing to him.
I love to laugh at other teams' weaknesses and misery, because a year ago it was us, and it had been us for a long time. Do y'all remember the last game last year for the Jaguars? It was in Indianapolis, and it wasn't going to be shown on local TV. So we all had to scramble to find a place to watch it. And I remember I watched it at a bar in Jack's Beach, and I never watched games out at a place like that. It was awful. Like, no one was really watching the Jaguars game. There was a bunch of other NFL fans, and they were just drunk, and like none of them cared really, because it's week 17, and it was like, ugh.
And it was on New Year's Day too, because I remember I think I only watched a quarter of that game before I fell asleep, because I went out on New Year's Eve.
Early it was good.
Yeah, the Jaguars were up at halftime, and we all thought, wow, this Doug Marrone guy is going to go to 2-0 as the interim head coach.
Yeah,
and then the Colts came back and lost, and the Jaguars lost. All right, and finally the Titans.
The one that matters. Here we go.
Yep, you're going to hear a lot about them today. The Titans head into today's home finale, needing a victory over the Jaguars to ensure their first trip to the playoffs since 2008. Running back DeMarco Murray suffered a knee injury in last Sunday's loss to the Rams. That's why he's out today. But of course, the Jaguars are familiar with Tennessee's other running back, Derrick Henry, out of Yulee High School, who had one of his best games at Everbank Field this season. Week 2, he had 92 yards and a touchdown. I know y'all remember that second half. It was 6-3 in the first half, and then the Jaguars defense fell apart. On the other side of the ball, the Titans limited running back Leonard Fournette to 40 yards on 14 carries in that game, making the Jaguars one-dimensional. As for quarterback Marcus Mariota, this is the first time he'll play in a regular season finale due to injuries. This season he's thrown 12 touchdowns, but 15 picks. Does he add to the pick total today, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah. The odds of him not adding to it against the team that's forcing as many interceptions as anybody in the league seems pretty low, as it's just not been a very good year for Marcus Mariota. And look, I'm not with the idea that the season's obviously not over for the Tennessee Titans. They got everything on the line today. I mean, this is a playoff game for the Titans today going up against the Jags. So just watching that offense the last 3 weeks, I don't know that you get it fixed against this group. You know, which is why I'm not scared to see him in the playoffs. Because for me, I wouldn't be playing my big guns against him defensively today. And if I saw him next week with my big guns, I'd be like, we're going to whip you next week with the way that you're playing offensive football right now. So that's why I don't have any fear for the Titans. I get that the fan base does, because 99 carries a big scar for a lot of fans out there. But as we were talking about during the break, I say exercising, man. It's been a year of exercising demons. Give me the Titans in the playoffs, and let's beat them by 2 touchdowns and forever stop this 99 talk. Like, it's done. We beat you head-to-head in the playoffs. You don't have it. The trump card is no longer valid, right? It's we got you. The last time that we played you and it mattered, we got you. And try to get over that 99 hump. That's what I would desire.
I like it.
Did y'all remember the guy earlier in the season who got the Tennessee Titans AFC South champions tattoo?
Because Mike said that was a treasure hunt or a scavenger hunt for the Jaguars fans up in Nashville today to try and find that guy and then rub it in. So
what an awful thing to get tattooed.
Yeah, and by the way, the AFC South,
right?
It's just, I mean, that's just the division. If you're gonna get something tattooed, go with like AFC champions.
Still or Super Bowl.
Still stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything
Why would you
of a
celebrate second place? What a loser.
Like, I had a rule. I have a rule for myself. Like, I don't buy gear for an end-of-season thing, like an end of, like, you know, we made the playoffs or conference champion. Like, I don't buy any of that until I know how far my team has gone. The exception being, if I was a Jaguars fan that was making the trip to Nashville this week, it would be really hard for me not to wear a 2017 AFC South champion something.
Sure, to rub
walking
it in.
through that city. Like, it would be really difficult for me to, you know, resist that urge to be able to wear that championship gear in another city. That would be the exception to the rule. I certainly wouldn't get it tattooed. Like, even if it had happened this week, I wouldn't get the tattoo. I'd be like, let me see how far this is going to go. And for your big aspiration to be, we're going to win the South, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, it's just, man, that guy.
That's a whole lot of wrong.
He needs better friends to talk him out of some of these decisions.
Here's the scenario for the Titans. The Titans can clinch, of course, with a win today over the Jaguars or losses by both the Bills and the Chargers, but we don't think the Chargers are going to lose to the Raiders. A Ravens loss plus a Titans win would give Tennessee the number 5 seed. Do you think the noise from the Titans fan base is going to affect the Jaguars offense today at all? No?
No, not really. I think it's just one of those games that this is an all or nothing game for the Titans. It's not that mindset isn't necessarily there for the Jaguars. Try as they might, it's just not there. That level of desperation, you can't sort of manufacture that like what we're going to see on the Titans side. That this is a level of desperation on their part. Jaguar players aren't facing that today.
No, I think that the crowd could be a factor in today's game. I mean, it's a playoff game for the Titans, and they're not going to host one. So enjoy it while you can. You're not playing at home in the playoffs. It seems unlikely that they're even going to wind up as the 5 seed. I suppose they'd have a chance if they wound up as the 5 seed, but Baltimore ain't beating everybody on the way. Like, that's not happening, right? So this is it. For the Titans fans, this is it. This is our last chance to go see their team. It's against a rival with an opportunity to get into the playoffs. So I think the fans could be a factor in today's game. Again, I keep going back to it. Okay, like that's kind of the way I look at it. And I get it that fans, again, because it's Tennessee, if it was anybody but Tennessee, I think the fans in the city would be looking at it very differently about what their football team could accomplish in today's game. But it's that Tennessee boogeyman, and they just can't let that one go. I get it. For me, it's not there. So I just look at it and say, all right, whatever happens today happens. I'm really not all that concerned about it.
It will be fascinating to see the energy level that the Jaguars have coming out. I mean, I'm sure that Doug Marrone will use the defensive tackle Jarrell Casey, his comments about the fact that the Jaguars aren't really AFC South champions unless they win today. Because if the Titans do win, they'll be 5-1 against AFC South opponents this season.
Good for them. Win more games.
So, yes. Yeah. You got to win the other ones, too, by the way, Titans. All right, we will break down how the Jaguars beat the Titans and upset them, as a matter of fact, because the Titans are favored. That's coming up next on 1010XL.
From the locker room to the 50-yard line, no one knows the Jaguars like Johnny O.
Had you heard of that Breida guy before? I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Fantasy. Why don't they play him more?
Chris Culver's Hyde's been pretty good, but
Okay.
Hyde's kind of banged up.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Burrito was great in college.
Okay, I don't remember him at all.
Well, he's Georgia Southern.
Ah, that would. I should remember if he played Florida and beat
I think
them.
it was Georgia Southern. Let's look at his college stats. Yeah, Georgia Southern.
Okay, so he would have been on that team, I bet, that beat Florida.
What year was that?
Oh, let's see. Georgia Southern. I always forget what year. I try to forget it.
Game log, see if Florida's in
Was
there.
it 2012? 2013? Yeah, 2013. So,
No, he was there 14.
okay. So he only played 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Then that's why I
Well, here for the Whip Crab I was told to believe it's already mid-December, folks. It is. How about this? The blue crabs are in season, and they are out of this world, okay? Fresh, they steam them Maryland style. The old day seasoning, simple as that. Just give a call for reservations. Store opens at 4:30. 260 Crab. Remember, you're located on Jewelton Creek Road. If you love
Yeah, he averaged, if I'm remembering correctly with Brady, he averaged like nearly 7 yards a carry
Wow.
in college, something like that.
Upgrade to a luxury
He was really good. He was the guy that I was writing about every week when I was doing that college fantasy stuff.
Okay.
Not so great his senior year. Remember it. I don't know why. I forget if he was hurt or something.
Belichick ordered the field crew to place thermometers inside the Jets tunnel so they're reminded how cold it is. But, like, New York is cold too. I mean, if it was the Jaguars, then I'd get it.
Hey guys, it's cold. In case you forgot. Games. Coaches playing. But I was reminded yesterday again, as both teams got a sideline warning during the Tax Slayer Bowl, of my least favorite thing about college football is the get back coach. I hate it so much that there is an adult man on the sideline that has been yelling at teenagers for a week that they need to know their responsibility and be where they're supposed to be and to keep their head in the game, that has to be dragged back to where he's supposed to be by another person.
When did that happen? We must have left before that.
They both got a warning. Neither one of them got a penalty.
Okay.
But like Clemson, it drives me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're an adult who's yelling at these kids to do their job, and you don't even, like, you're where you're not supposed to be. Like,
yeah, you lose
like
your
if I was a kid, it would invalidate everything you say to me.
Did you watch the end of the Penn State game?
No.
James Franklin, like, went crazy for a half a second.
Well, sounds like James Franklin.
It does.
Yeah, I hate it. Get back, coach. I hate it. So stupid.
Did y'all have fun in the suite?
We did. They were behaved well most of the time. It was a good game, and then just the way it ended, it was like...
2 shots. Come on, Lamar.
He's single-handedly, he's the reason why they're in the game and why they're also out of it.
I was happy. I just didn't want overtime. That's what I was pulling for, not overtime.
My dad
When
went
it got
to the
a
concert
4-point game, I
afterwards.
was like, here we go, no overtime.
Oh, did y'all go to the Styx concert?
No, my dad did though. I told him on Christmas, I was like, I'm not going to that concert. I was like, I'm going, I'll tailgate with you, I'm going to the game, I'm not going to the concert. And nobody else wanted to go to the concert either, so we all took an Uber back and my dad went to the concert by himself.
Aww.
Go. I told you already I wasn't going.
Yeah, they showed them on the board. All of them have had significant work done. It was like, ooh. I don't get it. Like, you're rockers. You're supposed to look old.
And he
at this
said...
point. What did you say? 30 seconds?
45.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
He was like, I see they come here, once every couple years. I was like, so you've seen them before? And I was like, you're gonna go see them again?
I mean, I just had no idea that, like, they didn't market that well, I feel like.
No, I didn't even know at all.
Until they showed them on the boards, and Brian was like, why are they showing them? And then I figured out the concert.
15 seconds.
I think it was supposed to be military only for that concert. Military appreciation. And my cousin's in the military, so we got their tickets.
XL 92.5 FM. The 1010XL Kickoff Show, fueled by Sawyer Gas, presented by Coastal Equipment on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
There was no way we could have a final show of 2017 and not hear a little Tom Petty, who we lost this past year. I was listening to Tom Petty on the way here, and I was like, how is that possible? He was only 66.
Yeah,
How is that
it's
possible?
wild. I grew up on Tom Petty.
Me too. And I never got to see him in concert, so I'm sad. Tony, you've got a smile on your face? Like,
No.
Tom Petty's not your favorite.
No, I don't. Tom Petty's fine. Like, I'm not like a big Tom Petty fan, but I got no issue with Tom Petty.
I love it. I really love him. Loved him. The Jaguars have bounced back strong this season, going 4-0 after a loss the previous week, and have averaged 32.5 points per game in each of those. Tony, can they do that today?
Yeah, they're certainly capable of it, and I feel like Tennessee is a team that could be waiting for an avalanche You know, like the way that the last month of their season is gone, they've lost 3 in a row. They come into this game. They had an opportunity, same opportunity the Jags had a month ago, where the division is in your hands.
They're both 8-4 at the same time, right?
Yeah. All you got to do is keep winning football games, and you control what's going to happen within the AFC South because you got the trump card of a home game against the team that you're going head-to-head with at home at the end of the season, and they couldn't beat anybody. Like, basically from the time it got to that point, couldn't beat anybody. It feels like a team that is waiting for the mountain to come down on top of them. So if the Jags were to jump on them early in this game, I think it's one of those that could get ugly. Like, could get real ugly for the Titans today.
It certainly did last year on Christmas Eve when the Jaguars knocked the Titans out of the playoffs. What did you hear this week that you want the fans to hear?
Give me the thumbs up that we're good to go with it. All right, I just wanted to make sure because I didn't send the clips till this morning. So I wanted to make sure we were on the same page with Matt there in the control room. But let's get into it. We always hear a little bit from Jalen every week. Jalen didn't say a whole lot of interest this week, and it's really got nothing to do with football being played on Sunday, but it is Jalen Ramsey, and the fan base loves to hear from Jalen. So here's Jalen Ramsey talking about Doug Marrone being considered for Coach of the Year.
You talked before about the culture change and how things have kind of sub-tiered. Does Doug Marrone deserve some Coach of the Year consideration for what he's done? Kind of, and there was all kinds of things that happened, obviously, to turn this thing around, but considering...
You want me to say no about...
No, I didn't. No, I want you to tell me why you think he deserves Coach of the Year consideration.
If he's done a good job of coaching.
That's a very Marrone-like answer.
Yeah, he's done a good job of coaching. That's why he deserves it. You know what I'm saying? What you trying to do, get me in trouble, dog?
No, I just...
You know he look at all this
10 seconds.
Yeah, he good at all of that. Coach, you good at all the culture change.
5.
That's you. Rules, that's you. All this you, Coach.
He may get fined. For dropping 3 of them in the same clip, he may get fined by the team. We'll see how Doug Marrone wants to handle all of that. AJ Boye talking about...
me in trouble, dog.
Right. AJ Boye talking about the game last weekend says the Jags needed that loss to the 49ers.
Yeah, because, I mean, from our standpoint, we're always focused. We're always trying to win. But from the outside, they always going to try to, ride the wave or say this and that and everything positive. And certain people might pay attention to that. But we don't need to pay attention to that. We need to focus, and we'll rather it happen now than it happen in January when the playoffs come. So we know we got to work on. We played against a great team, a great quarterback with a great coach in Shannon,
10.
who coached against our system. So some of the stuff that beat us, we paid attention to it. We tried to adjust to it.
5.
Approached it today as far as like what has been beating us and what have we been seeing from the Titans.
That's the last time it can happen in a game that has any significance for the Jags, so hopefully they get some of the bugs out of the system heading into the playoffs. Malik Jackson talking about this team and its ability to bounce back from losses thus far in 2017.
Good teams don't lose twice. We consider ourselves a good team, and so we have to go out here against a good Tennessee team that's fighting to stand to get in the playoffs.
10.
We got to kick them out like we did last year, and we know they're going to come in here with everything. So
5.
Very naive to act like that's not what's going to happen. So we're going to be ready, and we'll see what happens.
Would like to remind Malik that the team he was on that won a Super Bowl lost twice in a row in the season, twice, and still found a way to win the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens on today and how it affects the Jags going forward. You ask me, not much, regardless of what happens today outside of somebody getting hurt. And finally, from Doug Marrone earlier in the week, was asked about the Titans, and he's got some apparently Titans blood in the family and how it's affected him at home.
They're Titan fans, and then they better know who the family is and what they want. And it's not bad because it gives me an excuse not to go to a lot of family functions. Which, as you guys know, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not the best family function guy. I'm kind of in the corner, so now it's easy. Now it's like, well, no, they went to the game and they rooted for the Titans.
10.
I'm not going to this function, But there are a couple that are
5.
Are obviously rooting for us because there's a couple of them that actually like me.
I'm sure there's more than a couple that actually like you, Doug. I think Doug would be a blast at a family function.
Yeah, I think
honestly.
so. A lot of the Jaguars media got to hang out at Doug's house with he and his wife before the season, and they said he was great.
Yeah.
Normal, kind of hanging out, grilling. I don't remember if he was drinking beer or not, but he probably drinks beer, and just having a good old
Casual
relaxed
guy.
time. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's learned a lot from the experience in Buffalo, And I think now you're seeing a guy who decided, you know what, I'm just going to be honest with people. And I think that he is a very intelligent person, and he's probably not a super chatty person. And a lot of times those people at parties, I feel like, are the ones who people aren't quite sure how to approach them. So I kind of get that he might, yes, be in the corner at times, but that's more because he probably just doesn't want to talk to people and make that idle chit-chat, you know? Mm-hmm. That's at least my my view from way afar. It's not like I'm hanging out with him every weekend. I don't really like bologna, so, you know, we wouldn't get along that well. How do the Jaguars take down the Titans and keep them out of the playoffs?
Now, the keys to the game on 1010XL. Brought to you by Instant Keys. Fast, professional, honest locksmith service.
Blythe, kick us off. How did the Jaguars beat the Titans?
I think you got to get to Mariota early and often. He's probably having a career worst year with 12 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and it's probably hindered by the injuries that have plagued him all throughout the season. So I think get to Mariota quickly, and this game should be in hand by the second quarter.
And I'm going to go with don't lose your cool. We talked about this a little bit ago, and the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties last week against the 49ers definitely contributed to that loss. They're playing a desperate team. They've got to be able to keep their composure and remember that it doesn't really matter in the end. So don't get in those situations where the flags are going to go flying.
And that's something that I think other teams will try to play on with Jacksonville. They're going to try to play up that emotion, just like the Jaguars have done to other teams throughout the season. Other teams are going to start doing that to the Jaguars.
And Malik Jackson has been involved with a few of these now.
And he's a veteran leader. He needs to get his crap together.
Tony, what say you?
Look, well, regarding all that stuff, I think you've already seen the effect of it. But Miles Shack didn't have to say a word. There is a reputation for the Jaguars' defense, and it's real, right? You're seeing officials maybe overreact to stuff they're doing. Well, they've done it to other teams for years. It's not like this is the first team that has played with this kind of swagger, that has had this kind of issue with officiating. You know it's coming. Be better. Like, you just can't put yourself in a position where you're 6 inches away from an official and you start headbutting somebody. Like, you can't do it. You know what they're going to do to you because of the reputation you have at this point. You got to be smarter than that. So we'll see if they can stay on this side of it. I think a key in today's game, 95. I think 95 rush yards. If the Titans are under that number, the Jags win pretty easily today. If they're over that number, the Titans got a chance to win this game today.
Okay, I thought you were talking about Avery Jones. And so because all the defensive guys are going to sit.
That goes into the run game too.
Yeah, actually, he is a big key to the game. All right, Blythe, what's another one from you?
Another one is just, obviously, it's keeping your emotions in check and then avoiding, turnovers and costly plays like that. But with Blake Bortles in particular, this Jaguars team is 8-0 when Bortles doesn't throw a turnover. And they're 2-5, or doesn't have a turnover or throw an interception. And they're 2-5 when he does throw an interception. So keep the turnovers in check. If he even is playing in this game, like if Tony had it his way, it'd be Chad Henne starting instead of Blake Bortles.
It would be.
That's fine. I would say don't give up explosive runs because the Titans have won 3 of the last 5 games against the Jaguars, averaging 201 rushing yards in those victories. So it's going to be Derrick Henry for the Titans. Don't let him abuse you. And, this Jaguars defense was, especially once Marcel Darius got here, was so good against the run. And I feel like they've kind of relaxed a little bit. I don't want to see that today.
I think it's 21st. The Jaguars are 21st in the league against the rush in the past 4 games.
So yeah, it
needs to be improving.
It was a strength after he got here, and then I feel like he's kind of disappeared a little bit. You can't have that at this point. And I'll finally go with Jaguars left guard Patrick Omameh needs to dominate Titans defensive tackle Jarrell Casey to show him that the Jaguars deserve to be AFC South champions. Tony is trying to make me not care about the Jaguars beating the Titans today, and I'm trying to muster up all of my hate and passion. I want this game to end today with a Jaguars victory. It is New Year's Eve. I want to ring in the new year with an 11-win season, but no injuries also. Can I have it that way?
Don't get me wrong. I want them to win.
Yeah.
But I don't look at it as if I sit down those guys, they can't win. There's no rule that says they can't go beat the Titans without Jalen and AJ, with resting our guys to get ready for the playoffs because you losers lost the last 3 weeks.
So who would play then? Tyler Patman and Jalen Myrick if you're sitting both Jalen and
Colvin
AJ?
would play outside, yeah.
And
Colvin, you want to go earn that contract next year? Here you go, buddy.
I like it.
Go play outside for a game. I'm fine with doing that, and I look at it and say, all right, so the Titans beat us this week. We'll see you next week, guys. And we're coming at you full guns blazing, and I think we're 2 touchdowns better than you. when we really want to go at you. I think we're that much better than you at this point. And if you beat the Titans, well, now you likely get the treat of playing the Chargers again. That's, for me, the risk of my guys getting hurt just isn't worth it. You earned the opportunity to rest guys that you want to rest this week. You don't have to play anybody that you don't want to play in this game. So Cam Robinson wouldn't play. If it was me, I'd let that abdomen rest for another week. Get ready for the playoffs, young man. Leonard Fournette wouldn't play because I get it. He hadn't been great in the last month, but he isn't going to get any better. Like, he's not going to get healthier playing. So the only thing that he can be is worse off physically by letting him play in a game like today.
And the Jaguars are 3-0 when Fournette hasn't played at all, played a snap. So there is precedent that's been set for the Jaguars winning without him. Tony, what's the latest when it comes to the injury report for these two teams?
The personal injury attorneys of Farah and Farah present this injury update. Farah and Farah, protecting you and your family since 1979.
A pretty short injury report for the Tennessee Titans. DeMarco Murray out with that MCL injury in his knee. They thought maybe he would give it a go late in the week, but decided to not push it with DeMarco Murray. That means Derrick Henry, the Yulee Bulldozer, will be getting a start today for the Tennessee Titans. Logan Ryan at cornerback, one of their free agent acquisitions this offseason, is questionable with an ankle injury. We'll see if he gives it a go this afternoon against the Jags. On the Jags side of things, Marquise Lee officially out with the ankle injury. We'll see if he's available next week heading into the playoffs. It's a high ankle sprain, according to reports and stories out there, so we'll see if he's had enough time to recover heading into the wild card weekend. Avery Jones officially listed as questionable on the injury report with the back injury. Could be a big Marcel Darius day today on the interior. That defensive line, Blair Brown, questionable with the concussion. He was able to practice late in the week. We'll see if he's able to get out of the protocol and get on the field today. It still seems like a long shot for him to get out there this afternoon. And Cam Robinson with the abdomen injury he suffered last week, officially listed as questionable. He was limited in practice this week, which is a good sign, but again, is one of those guys I go easy with. Anyone who's dealing with any kind of nick, no way they play in this game today.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we will go around the NFL, so stay tuned to 1010XL.
Make Monday feel like game day with Post Game Monday.
We got the W. I thought that mattered. A big one.
Expert analysis of Sunday's game all day. Brought to you by Dandy Foods, home of the classic Cuban. Everybody loves a classic on 1010XL.
The all-new Duval Ford is now open. Same address, 1616 Cassett Avenue, just a lot bigger and better. We designed it just for you with over 83,000 square feet of air-conditioned comfort and over 5.5 acres of new and pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs out front. That's over 700 vehicles to choose from. The all-new, brand-new, big #1 Duval Ford. Bigger, better, and here for you. What are you waiting for? DuvalFord.com.
Sawyer Gas.
This is Barry Rainey, General Manager of Sawyer Gas. I want to thank all our valued customers for their business. Here at Sawyer Gas, serving our customers in a safe and responsible manner is our top priority. We're proud to be a part of the local community and participate in the many activities that support local charities and organizations that improve the neighborhoods where we work, live, and play.
Sawyer Gas, driving every day with Sawyer Gas.
They flew JP out because JP's not here.
Holy cow, I didn't know that. I mean, obviously, I heard JP go in the game yesterday in the bathroom. I thought he did a good job. There's like one time that there's a couple times that his call sounded very excited, but the result was only like 10 yards. So it sounded like they were, about to be a touchdown, and then he'd be like, and that's the game, that's 11 yards, and he'd be like, oh, okay. But that was in the very end of the game, so it was an exciting part. But
Hi, this is Simone Biles. When kids believe in themselves, it's amazing what they can accomplish.
I believe I could be a pilot. I believe I can be a professor, a doctor, a poet.
I believed I could be a gold medalist. And thanks to the love and support from my parents who adopted me when I was a foster kid, I was able to reach my dreams.
There are 400,000
So is Mike going to do this by himself?
Or is
No, JP's going to do it from there.
Okay, and then talk to Mike?
Foster Kids,
we're basically
a program of the Ticket to Dream Foundation. Throughout the year, Mattress Firm opens its doors and its heart to collect essential items foster kids need, like shoes, school supplies, pajamas, toys, and more. To learn more or donate to a foster child in your community, visit mattressfirmfosterkids.org today.
Website that's down right now, and I'm pissed off.
Come to any Mattress Firm store today and donate to a foster child in your
Developers
community.
probably off for the
Not
holiday.
everyone can be a foster parent, but anyone can help a foster child.
1010XL 92.5 FM is your live and local station for complete Jacksonville Jaguars coverage. Next up in the season, the Jaguars take on the Tennessee Titans, Sunday, December 31st. Kickoff is at 4:25 p.m., where Frank Franchi, Tony Baselli, and Jeff Lageman have all the play-by-play covered. Brought to you in part by Geico. At Geico, you have a choice of ways you can save on car insurance. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, go online to geico.com, or stop by the local Geico office nearest you. We've come a long way since the caveman. Think about it. They did lay the foundation for all mankind, but there's no way a caveman had the skill to throw a perfect back shoulder fade. Geico may not date back to the caveman, but they have been providing great savings and service on car insurance for over 75 years. Geico also provides 24/7 access to licensed agents, complete with 97% customer satisfaction. So after the game, get a quote at geico.com and see how much you could save. It's way easier than throwing a back shoulder fade. Geico, so easy a caveman can do it.
Change the world this year. Start with a child. Bill Dixon here, Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Boys and Girls Club of North Florida. The Boys and Girls Club do so much for the children in our community, providing youthful programs that enhance their lives with a positive environment and safe haven from the dangers around them. 94% of our kids stay on the path for graduation. This year, please keep us in mind as you do the holiday giving. Go to bgcnf.org to learn more.
Should you have your carpets cleaned to impress potential homebuyers, to impress your guests, or just to impress your spouse? Have Zerorez clean your carpets now. 287-5727. Zerorez, spelled backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Is your home a wired mess? Do you need TVs mounted, remotes programmed, or stereo systems connected? Have Alpha Dog install it right. Tell them you want the high-flying Jacko special and get $25 off. AlphaDogSecurity.com.
If you can't call or email, text us.
Well, let's not get carried away.
On the 1010XL text line driven by Duval Ford, 641-1010. Share your opinion with 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House. Tough to believe it's already mid-December, folks. It is. How about this? The Blue Crabs are in season, and they are out of this world, okay? Fresh, they steam them Maryland style with the Old Bay seasoning. Simple as that. Just give them a call for reservations. Door opens at 4:30. 260 Crab. Remember, they're located on Julington Creek Road. If you love seafood and you love crabs, there's only one stop in Jacksonville, the Blue Crab House.
Home of the Jaguars, WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach, WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
I wanna feel the high, I sell it to me.
Game day is underway. The 1010XL Kickoff Show, fueled by Sawyer Gas, presented by Coastal Equipment on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
I have no idea what this song is.
I don't know who sings it. Yeah. It's a Spotify issue with me is that I just listen to a lot of good music, and so you tend to forget who sings what.
Matt, who we listen to?
Oh, Grizzly Adams.
All right, there we go. In case people are wondering. Tony Smith live from the Leave and Lauren Brooks with you until 1:30, leading up to the Jaguars and Titans kicking off at 4:25. Blythe, for all those Jaguars fans up in Nashville, what's the latest with the weather?
The weather, by kickoff, it's going to be about 24 degrees, but it's going to feel like 12 degrees, and it's going to hover around that for the majority of the game, and the sun will be out for a little bit, and then when it goes down, it's probably going to get even colder.
Ooh, I can't handle that, but I'll be inside in sunny Florida, so we're good down here.
It's not that much warmer here, it feels like, but
it was kind of is when I got here, so that's fine.
It feels freezing, so I can't imagine what the fans are going to be going through up there, feeling like 12 degrees. I don't even know what that is, 12 degrees.
I was in let's see, it was in like 2001. I went to a football game in South Bend, Indiana, and the high was like 20 degrees. And I had the face shield, had the hot chocolate, nothing. I was cold the whole time. It was miserable.
I don't know that you can stay warm. I think it's impossible. You just freeze to death.
My boyfriend's brother-in-law is there, so I'll ask him after the game, did you stay warm, and we'll get a flavor. We were going to try and have Bolt City Cap on
from the tailgate to join us, but he has laryngitis, unfortunately. That happens this time of year, so we'll catch up with him maybe next week. Which team with less than 5 wins in the NFL is in the best shape for next year? Blythe, you asked the question, so I'll start with you.
I think I'm going to go with, I have a few teams on my list, but I'm going to go with the Texans because I think that they found their franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson. They suffered a tremendous amount of injuries on both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, so you're essentially playing a bunch of practice squad guys for that Texans team. So I think that they're in the best shape to probably double their win total next year.
And I'll go 49ers because of the same thing as far as the franchise quarterback. I don't think they'd be a 4 or 5 win team at this point in the season if Jimmy Garoppolo had started with them. And I really like some of their defensive players with Solomon Thomas and DeForest Buckner. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. And what say you, Tony?
It's crazy how many teams in the league don't fit this category this year. There just aren't many teams that were that bad in the NFL. Can I say Cleveland with a straight face? No,
yes.
I can't. Cleveland.
They have a lot of picks, though. Yes.
Fantastic, because the Browns have always done so well.
Well, they have a different GM coming in, so I think you could make a case.
Well, I guess. If you wanna,
but I thought the same thing.
If you want to believe that Cleveland has finally gotten it right, okay.
I want to believe.
I don't. I don't care how long Cleveland sticks.
Yeah, they have LeBron James. You can't really feel bad for them.
They got that. The Indians were in the World Series 2 years ago. Whatever. Like, I don't feel bad for Cleveland sports fans. Honestly, I don't feel bad for any group of sports fans.
Me neither.
Anywhere. You got sports to pull for in your city. Who cares how good or bad they are? Like, I don't care about how good or bad your team is. It does not affect me, and I enjoy making fun of you, Cleveland. So stay miserable.
Christmas is over.
Stay miserable forever. Like, honestly, because I've already seen the results that the 49ers are actually getting something out of the high draft picks that they've had, and they're going to get another pretty good pick this year. I think it is San Francisco with Shanahan. It feels like they're going in the right direction. The Rams are a promising young team in that division. It feels like maybe we're coming to the end of whatever's happening in Seattle. Arizona's kind of in a quagmire right now with who's going to be playing quarterback, who's going to be the head coach. There's a lot of things up in the air in Arizona, so I think it's a little bit more open in the West, even than it is in the AFC South for Houston, where I think the Jags are at the beginning of a run. I'm curious to see what Tennessee looks like heading into next season, and if they want to keep playing the malarkey game, which I think is holding them back when everything is said and done. But if I had to answer one, it'd be San Francisco. They're certainly the hot team coming to the end of 2017. How much that matters going into 2018 as someone who doesn't really believe in momentum from week to week, much less over the course of an offseason, I don't know, but it feels like an organization that's making a bunch of the right decisions right now.
I heard you and Mike talking about that on Jaguars Today as far as do the Jaguars need to win today in order to bring momentum into the playoffs, and neither of you really think that momentum's a thing at all in the NFL. I think it is in the fans' minds, right? Like, fans get so high and so low, right? Christmas Eve was not fun for Jaguars fans who had gotten accustomed to winning and definitely thought the Jaguars were going to beat the 49ers.
Like, to me, I look at it and say, you know how you create momentum in the playoffs? You play in the playoffs. Like, you get a touchdown lead at home in the playoffs, that's real momentum, right? Like, and do I think that anything that happened against San Francisco is going to affect whether or not the Jags get a touchdown lead against whoever they play in the wild card? No, I don't think that it has anything to do with one another. I get confidence, I think, is a real thing, and this team still doesn't feel like a team that is lacking confidence, right? Like, if it felt like a team that was a different team in that locker room, that's like, oh no, like, what has happened to it? Like, if that was the reaction I was seeing from players, I'd be like, oh, okay, we need to figure out what's going on in this locker room. They aren't responding that way. So to me, confidence is real, momentum is fake. So that's why I'm really not worried about what happens today against Tennessee.
Especially when you consider that these players are taught each and every week to treat each game on a case-by-case basis, whether it's a win or loss. So momentum to me is sort of overrated when it comes to the NFL. I think it's more in the fans' minds than anything.
And as Mike kept bringing up, they had won 7-8 going into San Francisco. Where was the momentum? Like, it wasn't. It's not a real thing, right? You have momentum until you don't. And you create momentum within games, not within, a chunk of the season. You create it within the matchup that you're playing that day. They didn't create any last week, so they lost.
And it's interesting when you look at last week's game. Yes, you can harp on the fact that the defense gave up 44 points, but the Jaguars' offense did score 33 points. Yeah. So that is a pretty big number. When we talk about the Jaguars' offense, obviously all the talk surrounds quarterback Blake Bortles and his awful year last year, but so far this year he's been almost excellent. He's had some games that he's made some bad decisions, but for the most part he's had a great year. Yet I don't think any Jaguars fans would say that they trust him or that they're supremely confident in him. So that leads me to the Tax Slayer Bowl that was yesterday. A lot of people were talking about Lamar Jacksonville potentially becoming the quarterback here. It's obviously Lamar Jackson, but pushing him to Jacksonville. So, would you want Lamar Jackson as your quarterback? We were all at the game yesterday. What do you think? Blythe, I'll start with you first since you're the resident Louisville fan.
Yeah. I don't know how Lamar Jackson, and I know yesterday is not the best argument to be made about him with his 4 interceptions during the game, but he's single-handedly the reason that that the Cardinals were in that game to begin with. But he was also the big reason why they were losing towards the end of the game. So to me, it's a double-edged sword with Lamar Jackson. You want to get him because of the tremendous upside that he provides. And his passing game has improved dramatically. We all know about his rushing yards. I think he's the 3rd best rusher in college football, and he's a quarterback. So it's one of those situations where do you ask him to change positions? Do you ask him to I think you definitely ask him to put on weight. But as far as leading a team from the quarterback position, that's where I still have a little bit of a reservation. He's one of those, he's got to sit for a year, I think.
Yeah, he could sit. To me, last year, his passing game was not, he was not very accurate quarterback. And I thought it struggled. Yes, he did, absolutely. But because in the college football realm, he's fantastic. He is able to use his legs. What I watched yesterday, to me, NFL defensive ends are so much faster and so much more athletic and stronger than college defensive ends. I think there's no way that his game, as it stands now, could translate. But absolutely, if he sat, then maybe he would be able to learn more about staying in the pocket.
Well, that's what Bobby Petrino, head coach for the Cardinals, has stressed the entire offseason before the season began, and that's why his passing game improved so much more this year, is because Petrino forced him to pass from the pocket. And so he does have that upside and that capability, but he's playing the ACC. Yesterday he's going against a bigger SEC team, and I saw the same thing last year whenever I saw them play against LSU in the Citrus Bowl, that he's just overmatched, and he's a victim of trying to do too much, and that's where his biggest issue is that he has to be surrounded by better talent and then trust that talent.
Lamar's interesting. Like, I don't think the NFL is a grip it and rip it league anymore. I think that's the reason that everyone whines when Blake doesn't complete 60% of his passes, because it's a league where they expect you to dump it off to the running back. Like, that's what the NFL has become. I think it's a little more boring for having become that kind of league, but that's the reality of it. It's why, like, some of the things that people were complaining about with Deshaun Watson last year in the end didn't matter, right? Like, he doesn't have the big arm. Okay. Like, in the NFL, how much is that a necessity anymore? Like, you need a guy that needs to be able to throw that 15-yard out. That's an NFL throw. Can Lamar Jackson do that effectively? I don't know. Haven't seen him do it much at Louisville because it's been an offense that's played a lot over the middle of the field, and their deep stuff is down the sideline. It's not stuff where they're going to the sideline. It's down the sideline in a Louisville offense. So I don't know how effective Lamar Jackson is doing that stuff. I had questions about Deshaun Watson and how effective he was doing that stuff. And they're similar types of athletes, right? Deshaun's a little bit bigger than Lamar. It's an interesting thing for me. I watch Lamar Jackson. I don't see NFL quarterback, but that's because we don't see a lot of NFL quarterbacks that are asked to do what Lamar Jackson's been asked to do at Louisville. So is he a guy that, say the Jags are picking 32nd, let's stream, 32nd, the Jags are picking, and they decide that they want to look at a future quarterback? To me, I don't even know if in that circumstance Lamar's a guy that I'm seriously considering being the guy that I'm grooming for that position going into the future. I haven't seen, it's not like I'm watching Lamar Jackson week to week, right? And a lot of it is reacting to what people are saying about Lamar. But when I do watch him, I don't see the NFL throws that I want to see, right? I see the leadership and I see some of the intangible stuff from Lamar, but I don't see that NFL skill set that you see with a lot of guys. Like, would I rather have him or Josh Allen? I'd rather have Lamar Jackson, right? Because Josh Allen may look the part of an NFL quarterback, but I don't think he has it in his head. Like, I just don't think it's there for a guy like Josh Allen. I think physically, I'd rather have Baker.
Yeah. I said on the show this week, on the Frangie show, he was gone, but with David Lamb and Brent Martineau, I said I'd rather have Baker Mayfield as my quarterback over Lamar Jackson. This was a college discussion, and both of them were shocked that I said that, and they were like, no, I'd way rather have Lamar. To me, Baker Mayfield, and certainly we'll get to see it on the biggest stage, tomorrow, but, well, next to biggest stage because it's the semifinal. But to me, he just has all of it. He's got the mental game and he's got the accurate passing game. And they don't ask him to do the same things they're asking Lamar to do.
Well, there were 2 throws yesterday that if the wide receivers catch the ball in the end zone and just shy of the end zone yesterday, then we're talking completely differently about Lamar Jackson today. If those wide receivers are able to catch the ball that hits him in the dang numbers.
And I'm certainly scarred. The 4 interceptions, I'm going to remember that in my mind, right? Because there's a quarterback in Jacksonville who at times has thrown a lot of interceptions.
And a lot of quarterbacks have thrown a lot of interceptions. I don't know that you can judge Lamar Jackson, the totality of his college career off of that game yesterday, because it seemed like Mississippi State, that was their Super Bowl. And I want to stand on the fence of ban all cowbells forever because I think I still have a lingering headache from those dang things yesterday.
Yeah, and you were on the Mississippi State side,
yes,
right?
Yeah, it was so loud. My God, how can you allow those in a stadium?
The tickets actually said that artificial noisemakers weren't allowed, so I didn't expect them to be in there.
They don't ever stop Mississippi State from doing that. I mean, they've come here before. They've never been asked not to bring the cowbells for the Tax Slayer Bowl, Gator Bowl, whatever you want to call it. Ridiculous. I will say this regarding Lamar Jackson. I'm not one of the proponents of asking him to switch positions. I think he's a quarterback, and I think you draft him as a guy that's going to play quarterback, and you evaluate that, right? He's an athletic guy that plays the position. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. How much he can do what you're asked to do in the NFL, I don't know, because I don't know how much Louisville allows you to even try to do what you're asked to do in the NFL. It's a different kind of animal. Even with spread offenses coming more and more into the NFL, it's still just different.
We heard a little bit from cornerback Jalen Ramsey earlier. Well, we're going to hear some more because Hayes caught up with him yesterday. So we are going to talk to Hayes Carline, Jaguars beat reporter up in Nashville. That's next. And here's one-on-one with Jalen. So keep it right here on 1010XL.
Special teams are a part of making a team special. Listen for the Special Teams Player of the Week. Brought to you by Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched them for a few years.
92.5 FM.
This is Coach Hill of Jacksonville University Women's Basketball. We have worked with Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute and Baptist Health for 20 years, and they have provided excellent
it was probably his worst, the worst game of his college career.
It's no wonder why so many professional
Last. He hasn't declared yet, right?
He's probably going to go. He's probably going to go to the draft, even though I don't know that he needs another year. He might need another year, but if Bobby Petrino leaves, I think him and Bobby Petrino are sort of tied to the hip. That Bobby Petrino's out if Lamar.
Is erectile dysfunction making moments of sexual intimacy a thing of the past? The urologist at
got it Friday, couldn't talk at all. Kaplan got him a bunch of steroids. Yesterday he was better. And then today close to normal, but he did say JP is up there just in case. Okay. It seems interesting that they would, instead of like finding a Nashville play-by-play person, that they would fly. So that's good. That means I feel like that they're confident that he would do a good job.
Yeah.
Hayes' interview is a little bit shorter than usual. It's only a minute 30.
That's what he told me. That's no problem. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
And you only got 90 seconds with Jalen. I'm shocked.
Well, there was 5 minutes total that he only got private one-on-one for like a minute and a half. He was like, you guys can play everybody. And I was like, that's all right. We'll just roll with your stuff.
I love watching these guys transition to this side of it and realize that you just don't have to be a jerk. Especially in a place like this, no one's out to get you. Nobody in the media here is like, I'm going to get you.
But it's funny because it was D-Rock, and it was D-Rock that
Oh yeah.
We had the incident with earlier.
Fake news.
Yeah. Raiders are preparing to pursue Gruden now that
I cannot
the
stand
Bucs
John
are
Gruden.
keeping Cutter.
I cannot
Why?
stand him. hate him with, I don't think there's a person in media that I hate more than John Gruden.
Why?
His analysis is dumb. His stupid quarterback camps, dumb. His analysis on Monday Night Football, dumb. There's zero insight. He uses his agent nearly every year for the past 10 years to try to secure a bigger paycheck, which is, I respect, but at the same level, like every time I hear these reports, he's linked to X amount of job, which he might actually, this is the first time that I'm like, he might actually leave this time. But it's like 5 years of crying wolf that he's gonna leave. It's like, leave. You make the world a better place if you're not on Monday Night Football coverage anymore.
I just don't listen to it.
I hate him.
17 degrees in that.
Hate him.
He's good on the draft. I'll give him that. He's really good on the draft, actually, because he's critical. Monday night,
sunshine and rainbows.
Like Monday night, it's ridiculous. Everyone's the best.
The Gruden grinder.
Everyone's the best. No, they're not, John. There's one best. That's the definition of the word, is best. But the draft, like, he'll rip into guys. Chucky. I don't care. Who would they get to go in the booth, I wonder? If Gruden left.
Somebody good.
Rex. Do you think they'd put Rex Ryan?
Ugh. I say that, but I don't really know how he is in the booth.
I would love for it to be Randy Moss. I don't even know if he'd be any good at it. I just want to listen to him talk for a whole game. I just want Randy to be Randy.
I think I've maybe watched one Monday Night Football game this entire season. Like, once Monday Night Football comes around, I'm completely disinterested in football. Because I've spent Thursday watching it, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. By the time Monday comes, nah.
Have it on.
Sunday Night Football, though.
I like the Monday Night Countdown show. I think they do a good job.
Give me more Moss.
15.
Thank you.
Now let's go behind enemy lines. Brought to you by Riverside Pain Physicians.
Hayes Carline, Jaguars beat reporter for 1010XL, joins us now. Good afternoon, Hayes. Are you warm?
Well, I am warm right now because I am in the hotel, but I am getting ready to walk out the door and be cold. But I've been in Indiana for a week, so Florida boy is ready for this challenge, and I think it's going to be fun. You know, seeing how the team responds. They got a chance to play in Cleveland about 5 weeks ago, so I think they've gotten a sense of what this will be like, and it's a good gauge for what could await them in Pittsburgh or New England.
So I am curious, did the family go back to Florida while you went to Nashville? How did the logistics work?
The family is on their way back. They are probably south of Atlanta right now, so we took opposite ways home, but they are en route.
Okay.
So if you're going to rob us, you have about 2 more hours.
Hayes, with the cold weather games, I cannot fathom how you actually dress to prepare for these games. Is it layers? Is it hand warmers? Is it a combination of the two? How do you even prepare for a cold weather game that's going to feel like 12 degrees?
Are you asking me or like the player perspective?
Both.
Well, for me, it's a lot of Jack Daniels. Now for Blake Bortles, it might be a different method. But
Corona.
I always prefer antifreeze from right around the corner here in Tennessee. I mean, for me, it's basically 100-yard walk into the stadium, and then I'm in the press box and pretty cozy there. So it's easy for me. It's just a few minutes of discomfort. For these guys, I think we've seen players like Leonard Fournette say, "Look, I hate playing in the cold, but it's part of my job." And then I think there are players that sort of enjoy it, enjoy the change. So I think it. If the Jaguars don't play well today, I don't think it'll be because of the cold. It's not like there's going to be condensation. I think it's really a pretty sunny day right now. It looks like very little wind. So, I mean, other than the temperature, I think everything else is in pretty good shape. So, I don't expect that this will be. I thought Cleveland was a little different because it was windy and it was the first time for these guys, but I wouldn't expect the cold to play a role today in how the team plays.
What players play what roles today, I think, is the big question, Hayes. And if it was up to you, who would play, who wouldn't play in this game that really doesn't mean much for the Jags?
I'm playing everybody. I just think that that's sort of the culture that is being built here, and I think it's bad for morale at this point if Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin and Dave Caldwell decide, you know what, we're going to sit down, 10 guys, because, these aren't college rosters. There's not 85 guys on scholarship. You've got a 46-man game day roster, so even if 7 of your inactives are all starters, if you wanted to sit all 22, you still have 15 that you have to, basically not play. And once you remove the 3 specialists, kicker, punter, long snapper, you're down to 28 players. So I just think it creates a tough vibe for a young team because the coaches basically have to tell the roster who they prioritize. And look, these guys maybe know to an extent, but, I think it's tough to say, well, Jalen Ramsey's not going to play, but A.J. Boye is, or vice versa. So, and sure, I get they could sit them both, but then it creates another issue somewhere else. So I think it's better for where this team is to just say, you know what, we said on January 4th or whatever day it was that we were going to win lunch. That does not mean that we're going to just not play to win this game. I think there is a benefit in knocking Tennessee out, or at least trying to knock them out. And, I do think there's a benefit for a young team in going in with the momentum of getting a victory on the road and avoiding a 2-game losing skid. So, Doug Marrone has said that he is going to start him. Maybe he'll change his mind as the game progresses. But if I was the Jaguars, with where this team is right now, I would say, all systems go and try and beat the Titans by 50 points. As this team evolves in future years, if it remains a contender, and once they've accomplished something in the playoffs, then I think it's a different story. If you're where the Steelers are and what they've accomplished, to me it's a different story. But for right now, I think absolutely you go and you try and beat Tennessee as bad as you can beat them.
Hayes, the Jaguars are coming off that 44-33 loss to the 49ers. What can they learn from that loss that they can use against the Titans and then beyond into the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they, just to be tighter, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in, as far as the matchups of that game. I think Garoppolo is playing at a far better level than Mariota. The Titans do not have a fullback that is going to give the Jaguars the kind of problems that the 49ers were able to do. So it's such a different kind of look, at least that the defense is going to see, that I don't think that's going to play a role, other than I just don't see this defense, having a rough go of it 2 weeks in a row. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, with DeMarco Murray out, who really, to be honest, has not been as effective as a runner as Derrick Henry. Henry's been, I think, the better back in terms of just purely running the ball. But Murray does give the Titans a more all-around back as far as, catching the ball. I think Henry can do that, but they just haven't asked him to do it as much. I think he has 10 catches on the year. DeMarco, I think, is third on the Titans, and catches are certainly up there. So, I think that'll play to the Jaguars' favor with Murray not being in there. Not, again, I think Henry's the better runner, but I think there's more tendencies you can lock on, and I think the Titans are forced to sort of go, maybe pare down some things that, with Henry in there as opposed to Murray. So I like the matchup here for the Jaguar defense. I think Mariota in the second game of the year maybe played his best, and I think it'll be a little different. This defense was still finding itself. You still had that Miles Jack, Paul Posluszny thing going on where they were trying to get that right. I think that played a role. And then obviously the Jaguars made the trade for Marcel Darius since that game. So, there's some things here that I think benefit the Jaguars.
Hayes, we've seen this team try to tread on the side of using emotion to fuel their play. But how does the coaching staff help the players avoid costly penalties and still keep that emotional edge?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if I'm Marrone, I'm treating that somewhat of a one-off. I think it was one of those things where sometimes you just have a bad day, and I think that's sort of what happened in San Francisco. They've been pretty good about that, at least in the recent, 6-7 weeks after the bye. So, I'm sure obviously Marrone has addressed it with the team, but I'm not worried about the Jaguars getting, 2 or 3 personal foul penalties today. I do think if they get up on Tennessee, then you could see the Titans sort of try to instigate some things, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If the Jaguars are able to build a 24-3 lead in the third quarter, do you start to see, the Delaney Walkers on that team start to, hit after the whistle and do some things, basically saying, look, we don't know that we're in, but we're now going to try and ruin it for you and maybe take out a guy with a cheap shot. So that'll be something worth monitoring if the Jaguars are able to build up a lead. But I think as long as it's a game, I would expect at least the Jaguars to maintain their composure.
What do you expect to see out of Allen Hurns in his return to the lineup?
Not much. I think it's going to take some time for him to get worked back in. It is helpful that he was able to practice in a limited fashion all last week, and then he was inactive in San Francisco, so he basically has 2 weeks of practice. That will certainly help, and obviously he has a good chemistry with Blake Bortles, but I think it's tough with, missing all that time to come in and be a guy that's going to get targeted 8 times and catch 6 passes for 75 yards and a score. So I think it'll be more beneficial from a morale standpoint to have Hurns active, but I am not expecting a huge game from him. I think it'll be more D.D. Westbrook and Keelan Cole. And I'd like to see Jadon Mickens get involved a little bit more. So hopefully we'll see that as well.
Do you expect to see the run game get back on track since it has certainly been struggling?
I don't, because I think the Titans, if they do anything well, is they defend the run well. And so I think when you look at where the Jaguars are coming into this game, I think it's going to be, difficult. I don't, not to say they can't be productive, but I don't think this is going to be a game where, we're sitting around at 7:30 saying, wow, this was the week where the ground game really found itself. But I do think they can do enough to keep the Titans off balance somewhat with it. And, so I don't get the sense that it will hold the Jaguars back today, but I also am not expecting Leonard Fournette to, run for 110 yards.
Hayes, you've been around this team the entire season, even in the off season as well. What's the biggest difference that you've seen from week 1 to now week 17?
I think they've really gelled on defense. I think, and that's obvious, but I think they were an incredible mix of talent, but there were some things that they had to iron out, like Miles Jack and Paul Posluszny and what those roles were going to be, and the secondary didn't get a lot of work together in camp, and so I think their chemistry is much better now. And then offensively, I think just from a confidence standpoint, they're such a more confident offense. I think, and they may not say that, they may not want to acknowledge that, but I think it'd be tough to have the training camp and the preseason that the offense had, and then, say that they're not more confident today, as they stand with pretty good offensive numbers, really, when you look at what they've done compared to the rest of the league. So on offense, I would say it's more of a confident bunch, and on defense, I just think they've got a much better feel for each other by this point. And I think that'll be reflective today. I don't know that the offense is going to dazzle us today, but I think the defense is going to dazzle us today.
How do you see, this is where I think you and I disagree on how we would approach the game essentially today, because I don't know how you convince the guys that today matters. They know what they're going to be in the playoffs, and I guess the question is, how do you keep these guys motivated in a game that for them really doesn't mean anything for the Jacksonville Jaguars as an organization?
I think it does mean something. When they walk out of their locker room, they see a sign. It's all, it's about the division. It's got the, scores up. It's got the 3 teams. There's been an L next to Tennessee for, since week 2. So, for 15 weeks, they've walked out of the locker room and seen an L next to the Tennessee game. I do think when you have a young team, that matters. And, this is an NFL football game, and it may not matter, but I think it's hard for Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin to change the message today with this team and say, you know what, we're going to rest 12 guys, and if the Titans beat us, then they beat us. But we're basically going to let this one go. I think when you're in this process of building a culture, the last thing you want is for one decision to tear it all down. And I think that one decision can tear it all down today if he pulls guys or doesn't play them. So, you know, you do run the risk of a key player getting injured that you're not going to have next week in the playoffs. But this is a team that had an incredibly physical training camp, that did not worry about, look, we could lose one of our guys in a practice, and then we're going to have to play 16 games without them. They never had that mentality. They shouldn't start now.
Hayes, you caught up with Jalen Ramsey yesterday. Was he feisty per usual?
He wasn't feisty. He was, but he was quick, which you know is certainly his right. So Jalen, I wouldn't say was rude or anything, but he was ready to get on with his Saturday. So, you know, we always appreciate when the players stop and give us a few minutes after they get to the hotel from the flight. So Jalen met with the media. There was a group of us for about 3.5 minutes, and I asked about the last 5 questions, which only amounts to about 90 seconds. But yeah, I asked him about Ferry Fuel and Gibson and Church and things like that, and I thought he gave some good stuff. But so yeah, Jalen not overly long-winded, but hopefully there's still some good nuggets in there for the fans. 90 seconds with Jalen Ramsey is better than no time at all. So thanks for catching up with him, and thanks for taking the time out to talk with us today, too. Sure thing. Happy New Year. Take care. Happy New Year, Hayes. Stay warm up in Nashville on that 100-yard walk to and from the stadium. Hayes did catch up with Jalen Ramsey, Jaguars cornerback, and here is that one-on-one.
John, how do you think practice has gone this week for you?
It's been pretty good. Normal week.
What's Perry Fuel meant for you this year?
You know, he's been a good coach for, you know, all the DBs, especially the corners. He works with us the most out of anybody. The thing I most respect is that Coach, he lets me play. Coaches me up well, but, you know, he lets me play. Kind of lets me have my own flavor, let me have my own swag, and use multiple techniques that he teaches.
Where do you think you made your biggest strides this year in year 2?
I would say technique, but I think I made strides in multiple areas. So I don't know, just gotta keep getting better though.
What's the balance you have to strike between facing them week 2, that was so long ago? How much do you focus on that game, or when you watch film, and how much do you just look at what they've done the last few games? You gotta see how they attacked us a little bit. So
30.
But as well, teams get better, teams progress over the years, so we have to watch, you know, the previous weeks and see how they've done.
You're going to the Pro Bowl, AJ's going to the Pro Bowl, but what have Gibson and Church meant for you as teammates?
We're going to the Super Bowl, but they've meant a lot. We can really trust our safeties. We don't have to. We don't feel like we have to go out there and make plays to make up for anybody.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Just continue to be a better man.
5.
Keep getting better. Make people around me better. That's pretty much it.
Jalen, thanks so much.
Sure.
That's actually a very high, lofty resolution, to make people around you better and get better as a man. So that's a pretty good one. I expected him just to be like, nah. But I thought that was good. You know, Jalen's from around, Smyrna? He's from Smyrna, Tennessee, so right around Nashville. So I know he's glad to be kind of back home. But, you know,
hopefully he has a lot of family.
I got family in Smyrna.
Do you?
I really do, yeah.
I'm sure he wants to send the Titans, though, home with a loss.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And disappoint that fan base there. Just under 4 hours until kickoff against the Titans. So we'll take a look at potential opponents for the Jaguars' home playoff game. That's next on 1010XL.
Every contest is a moment where the rubber hits the road.
These are their
Listen for the TireOutlet.com drive of
This
the
one's
game
just the ball?
on
This looks like the
1010XL.
season.
TireOutlet.com. Wholesale prices,
Can I
premium
have
service.
I don't know who brought it in.
So many fresh ingredients in their fajita bars and burritos that your coworkers can build a meal as unique as they are. Give your health fanatic a bowl of all-natural chicken, a side of grass-fed steak.
I'm eating at my standing desk.
Your micromanager, total control.
A tablespoon of
This is
handcrafted
nice,
fun.
though.
And your
I didn't know
intern
they
a
did
break
books
from
this
traffic.
nice.
Moe's delivers. Score! Please everyone in your office. Visit Moe's.com/catering.
Call Moe's 24/7 catering hotline number 844-797-MOE's. If reindeer have wrecked your roof, make a call to Carlson Enterprises.
and give Santa a much better runway for next time. Call 855
I feel like I've had a headache for 24 hours.
Carlson Enterprises, 855-91 Roofing.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World.
Just sits back there, gently reminding you that it could get 10 times worse.
Selling over 1 million windows each year for the past 8 years.
That's a lot of satisfied customers, and why J.D. Powers has awarded Window World Best in Customer Satisfaction 3 out of 4 years.
Window World stands behind their slogan, simply the best for less. With Window World, you get top quality windows at a price that leaves more of your money in your bank account, and you get the absolute best guarantee there is in the window replacement industry.
Do you think
compared
Blake
to our
will play the
competition,
full
there is
game
none. See for
or get
yourself, call the
benched by
competition, get quotes
halftime?
from them. But before you buy, get Window World's free estimate and compare the quality of the windows and the price.
You'll see.
And when your new Window World windows are installed and they're saving you money on your energy bills, if anything goes wrong with those windows, Window World and I will be there to make it right. That's my guarantee.
Call Window World today. Start saving money on your new windows and your energy bills, and take vacation with your savings. Window World, online at
With Blake, I think he only gets benched depending on the game. If it's a blowout on either side, then he'll probably be not benched, but he'll probably be sat in favor of Chad Henne.
Frank, to talk about guarantees and warranties, you have to look at our history of over 70 years in business.
Hopefully it's a blowout on the Jaguars side, and he can just we can just rest our starters. I like that phrase better. Rest your starters versus getting benched.
And hopefully they'll tell their friends about us. To do this means we've got to try our hardest to satisfy every customer.
As we've established during the show today, I don't believe in momentum. I don't think telling that my star players that we're going to sit you down for a week at all diminishes the message that you've had all year. But I know some people do.
Well, it's like some people will talk about, like tanking the season and things like that. Like, and then I'll make the argument all day that players will never, because they're always playing for their next contract, but there's a way for coaches to do that without sort of diminishing that. And that's by just, we're going to give this guy, we want to see what this guy has.
Everyone in the locker room knows how important Jalen Ramsey is. Like, everyone knows. It's not a mixed message. Hey guys, I think we all realize that, Jalen and AJ kind of make our defense what it is.
I mean, you could argue that if they lost Gibson or Church, that would be also detrimental.
Yeah.
Like, they don't, who would they play, who's the backup safety? I don't even know off the top of my head. I have to think about it.
Peyton Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
This truly is an SUV like
yeah, that's a significant drop-off. No,
Atlantic Boulevard, where there is no substitute.
He probably knows that.
Corners. I can hide the safety.
I guess that's valid, but that's who I'd attack if I'm Tom Brady. You know, he's smart enough.
Get the Brady first. You gotta win a wild card game, and then you gotta win a divisional round game before you gotta worry about Tom Brady.
Teal and black, 1010XL, 92.5 FM.
Should you have your carpets cleaned to impress potential homebuyers, to impress your guests, or just to impress your spouse? Have Zerorez clean your carpets now. 287-5727. Zerorez, spelled backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Divorce and child custody disputes are complicated and most
I get it. I've had the argument all week. I'm just not. If they lost the wild card game and rested those guys today, I wouldn't be like, it's because they rested Jalen. Like, that thought wouldn't even cross my mind. If they lost that game, it'd be because they got beat. To me, it has nothing to do with what happens this week. Unless it means that you have to play the Chargers instead of the Titans. Oh my gosh.
That's what we're talk about, Tony.
I'm telling you, I think at home they're 2 touchdowns better than the Titans right now.
And we want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
Is that ice on there? Oh my god.
You can't cover up the field, you clowns.
That's what Tennessee did.
It's 2017. Baltimore.
Jacko here, and if you're about to sign a 3-year deal for an in-home security system,
yeah, it almost looks like they had a water hose on it. Like, that's how slick it looks.
Long-term mistake. Online at alphadogsecurity.com.
Kick off your week with Breakfast with Boselli, Tony Boselli, and Jeff Prosser. Breakfast with Boselli is brought to you by Carlson Enterprises, Jacksonville's first choice in roofing. Monday morning at 8:15 on 1010XL. The 1010XL Kickoff Show, fueled by Sawyer Gas, presented by Coastal Equipment on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Another year in review song choice since we lost Greg Allman in May of 2017. I went with the Allman Brothers. Plus, I just absolutely love this song, Midnight Rider. The Jaguars have a home playoff game for the first time since the 1999 season. So which team do you want the Jaguars to play? Tony, you're in favor of laying down today.
Not really.
And get the Titans, right?
No, everything I've said, I don't want them to lay down. I think you can go beat the Titans with these guys while not risking your guys. I think they can still win this game even if they set down all those guys. I think I look at it and say, if you're going to ask me who I'd like to see them play in the wild card round, with the 4 teams that they could currently play, Buffalo would be the top of my list because Buffalo doesn't present a threat to them. Offense, I don't see how Buffalo threatens this Jaguars defense. Beyond that, it would be Tennessee for me, then Baltimore, and then the Chargers. The Chargers are the one that I don't want to see, and the most likely outcome if the Jaguars win the game today in Tennessee would be that they play the Chargers because the Chargers have the game against Oakland, and I'm not even looking at that as the reasoning for what I do today. The reasoning for what I would do today is because I don't have to risk anybody. I don't have to. They do. I don't. If I didn't have to, I wouldn't because the Titans winning doesn't scare me because I've been saying it on every break that we've had today. I think a home playoff game next week against the Titans, the Jaguars are 2 touchdowns better than the Titans. I believe that. So the Titans beating me today without Jalen and AJ and Blake and Calais and these guys that I would have sitting on a bench there, I'd be like, I don't care who you beat last week. That wasn't us. We'll see you in the playoffs. It would have no effect to me on what was going on next week. But if I was going to rank them, it would be Buffalo, Tennessee, then Baltimore because they can't score on you, I don't think. And then the Chargers. The Chargers are scary.
It's hard to argue against that logic. It's just my anxiety level already starts going through the roof when I think about the Tennessee Titans coming back to Jacksonville next week to play against the Jaguars. I feel like this team is better. There's zero bones in my body that will ever pick the Titans over the Jaguars, even if I'm ignorant in that thought. But there's an extreme amount of anxiety of the Titans coming to town.
I don't want to face the Chargers whatsoever. The Chargers scare me beyond belief.
See, the Titans scare me more than the Chargers. And I don't know, I feel like that's more of the fan in me than anything.
See, I think Mariota has no bearing even being mentioned in the same sentence as Phillip Rivers.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
And Tennessee defensively doesn't pose as big of a threat as the Chargers do.
Except against
Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. Plus that game, the Jaguars basically lost that football game. It's just Phillip Rivers thankfully threw a pick to AJ Boye, who ran it almost back for a touchdown. And I just have a vivid memory of Blake Bortles throwing 2 interceptions and almost throwing a third one to Trey Boston for the Chargers. Plus, the Chargers are seasoned with Rivers. To me, because Tennessee hasn't made the playoffs since 2008, none of those guys are really, to me, going to be able to go, all right, we've been there, we've done this. So, I don't want to play the Chargers. The Ravens shouldn't scare us, right? We dominated them 44-7 in London, yet why do I have this anxiety when someone mentions the Ravens? Is it
I don't know.
Flacco's won a Super Bowl?
I guess because Flacco's won a Super Bowl. The defense is really good for the Ravens. It's playing better now than it obviously was early on in the season, but they're playing without Jimmy Smith. They're a different pass defense without that guy in the secondary. To me, the Ravens thing is, what can they do offensively to threaten this Jaguars team differently than they did before? I'm not saying that I think if they played again it'd be 44-7 necessarily again, but I don't think that Ravens can score twice. Based on what we've seen from them offensively, I don't think they can threaten Jacksonville, which is why they'd be where they're at in that list for me. And it's why it's not a scary matchup to me. To me, I think the Jaguars are an easy home favorite over any of the 4 teams that they played. They ought to be. They're the 3 seed. They had an opportunity maybe going into Week 16 to go get the bye. They beat Pittsburgh handily already this season. I think they're a favorite over whoever they would play next week. I think they're the slimmest favorite against the Chargers, and it's not close compared to the other 3 teams that they could potentially play.
And you gave a stat in the break that I did not know about the Chargers and the Jaguars defensively. The Chargers are only giving up 1 point more than the Jaguars.
As good as the Jags' defense has been this year, the Chargers are giving up 1 more point a game than the Jaguars have this season. The defense for the Chargers is real. And because they have the balance with Phillip Rivers and the ability to run the ball a little bit, like they are the most balanced football team of those 4, you can argue whether or not they're hot coming into the playoffs after their loss on the road to Kansas City, right? But again, I don't believe in momentum. I believe you are who you are, and it's a matchup thing, and they match up well with the Jags. That we've seen it once before. They match up well with this football team. Whether that's the familiarity with Gus Bradley going up against Blake Bortles, I don't know. It was real. We saw what happened on the field that day here at Everbank. It was a really, really tightly contested game. As I said, I think they're 2 touchdowns better than the Tennessee Titans here at home. I think they're 2 touchdowns better than the Buffalo Bills here at home. I think they're a touchdown, maybe 10 points better than the Baltimore Ravens here at home. Against the Chargers, I think it's a field goal game either way between those two sides.
By the way, I haven't really talked to y'all about Christmas. How's everybody's Christmas? Good? Other than the fact that the Jaguars lost on Christmas Eve?
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
I was awesome. Great food. It's the best meal of the year for me.
Is it better than Thanksgiving?
Better, much better than Thanksgiving, because my mom cooks it all. So she cooks the majority of it, like 99% of it. So it's all my favorite foods. Selfishly.
So she doesn't cook Thanksgiving.
And she takes brown gravy and puts it in like a giant pitcher with a spout for me, and so I just dump it all over my food.
Does someone else cook Thanksgiving?
There's usually a bunch of people involved in cooking Thanksgiving.
Or a potluck deal.
Yeah, it's more of like everybody. We have it at my aunt's house, but one thing she does do that I love that I think needs to be incorporated in more holidays, more family holidays, is she has a really good prime rib that she cooks for Christmas Eve and for Thanksgiving too. So that's something that I think needs to be incorporated more. More steak.
We went to my parents' house for breakfast Christmas morning and had shrimp and grits. That was the best way to kick off the day, and some mimosas. It was so good because I love seafood. I could have seafood at every meal.
I had seafood the next day, the day after Christmas, and that was a welcome. That was a welcome meal, just because you're so used to all those thick casseroles and turkeys and gravies and all that good stuff.
All right, in the AFC, you've got obviously the Patriots, a 1 seed. They are going to play all of their players today, going up against the Jets because they want to keep that bye for this coming weekend and the home playoff game, the 1 seed. Do the Patriots scare you if the Jaguars end up playing them? I say that laughingly.
Yeah,
yes. Because of course it's the answer, right?
Yeah, they definitely do, because the most important positions on a team are the head coach and the quarterback, and they are light years better than everybody else in the league when you compare just those 2 positions.
Gronkowski makes me incredibly nervous too.
He's a mismatch for any team in the league.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. If the Jags were to play him, I wouldn't be surprised if that's Jalen's guy. If the Jags were to play the Patriots, you follow Gronk everywhere that he goes.
That's a tough matchup for him.
Well, that's why he's here. Like, you get the tough one. Like, that's the. Would you rather see?
But size-wise, he just matches up so much better with the receivers, like a Chris Hogan.
Well, nobody matches up with Gronk.
I know.
Like, that's
maybe Miles Jack.
That's why he's Gronk. No.
Maybe Telvin.
No. Like, they're so much smaller than Jalen. Like, it's crazy. Like, that would be what I would do. We've seen it work for Denver. Aqib Talib. When the Denver Broncos play the Patriots, that's Aqib's guy. His job is Rob Gronkowski. When the Kansas City Chiefs, healthy, played the New England Patriots week 1, Eric Berry drew, because he's the biggest, most physical, athletic guy that they have in that secondary. They said, that's your guy. Jalen is the biggest, most physical, athletic guy they got in the secondary. He's an all-pro level player. If they get to the point where they're playing the Patriots, which would likely be in the AFC Championship game, I think that's where Jalen would be. Now, that doesn't mean that the Patriots don't have other options, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a ripple effect on what else they do defensively. That's why it's hard to beat the Patriots at this time of year. They are a matchup nightmare for anybody, even a defense as good as the Jaguars are. The Jags are really good on that side of the ball, which is why they'd have a chance.
And with the Patriots in particular, they're so good in those final couple minutes in the game. We saw it in the Super Bowl against Seattle, where Bill Belichick just sort of let Pete Carroll make a mess of the clock towards the end of the game. We saw it earlier this season against the Steelers in the final couple minutes. He lets other teams crack under the pressure, and he just remains cool and calm. So that's what would bother me about facing them the most, is those final couple minutes.
It would be wild to hear Bill Belichick talk about the Jaguars, right? Like the individual players when he has to do his press conferences. I would love to hear that, because we haven't had that in a long time.
Yeah, and really, like, outside of the
guy.
I'm telling you, I would love it.
He's never going to say a bad thing.
But I know Doug.
With
nobody likes him.
The Patriots and the Steelers, I know that they're well familiar with the AFC Championship game, but this has been the first year that I think that parity has really played a role, because with the final week to go, there are still 15 teams in contention for a trip to the Super Bowl. That's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's still 15 teams in contention. I think there are 3 teams in the AFC that can win the conference. Jacksonville's one of them. I don't think Kansas City, Baltimore, Tennessee, the Chargers, or the Bills are.
You don't think any of those teams will be able to beat the Steelers or the Patriots?
Both of them? No. Outside of Jacksonville, I don't think anybody else in the conference could go on the road and beat both those teams. Chargers,
I would lean
maybe
towards
4.
Kansas City.
I don't think Kansas City can. I just, not with the way that they're playing right now, but I get it. But the way I look at the AFC, I think it's that way. NFC, I think, is wide open. I think any of the 6 teams that get into the playoffs could potentially represent the NFC with the way things have happened, maybe with the exception of maybe the Falcons. I think that 6th seed, maybe, I mean, it should be the weak link if you have one in one conference or the other, but I think that may be the weak link. But because of, you know, the flux at quarterback in the NFC especially, I think it's a little bit more wide open. But in the AFC, because it is the Patriots and the Steelers, and they know how to do it. This time of year, it's 2 organizations where head coach and quarterback, they know exactly what they're going to get out of that position each week. Because of that, it's more difficult for somebody to break in. I think in a year where they're the 1 and 2 seed. Like, they've earned that in the AFC again this year. It's not some fluke that it's the Patriots and the Steelers that are the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC again.
It seems like so long ago that Ben Roethlisberger was saying, well, maybe I just don't have it anymore after the Jaguars whooped the Steelers 30-9 up in Pittsburgh. This season has certainly been filled with lots of really good moments, a few bad moments that we'd like to forget, but a lot of fantastic moments. So coming up next, we will give you each of our favorite moments from this season, one favorite moment per se. And then we'll also get into the NFC playoff picture. So keep it right here on 1010XL.
Jags beat writer Hayes Carline takes you behind enemy lines.
That's why it's hard to do, which is an exciting thing to say. Last year, Gus had just been fired. The Jaguars had beaten the Titans. I'm trying to remember what else.
That was fun. That game was on Christmas Eve, too.
Yeah, I remember because it was, I think it was a 1 o'clock game, Jaguars Titans. So I was done at like 7 on Christmas Eve.
We got college football all day tomorrow. I'm not doing anything. I'm not leaving my house tomorrow. Staying home all day.
I hate that the last game starts at 8:45. Second game, I should say.
Dunkin' has the best donuts out of chains. Anyways. That would be wild to meet Gus Bradley in the playoffs.
I don't miss his sound bites.
Yeah, he was terrible. The Patriots picking up Harrison is a great pickup for them. What do you think the matchup would be? I almost wonder if they picked up Harrison just for intel.
So Harrison hadn't played basically this year.
He hadn't played at all, right?
He's played a little bit.
And he didn't go to meetings.
I mean, didn't he
like
try?
Get a player for intel, that's a bad one.
Well, he tried to. He wanted the Steelers to cut him so bad that he was like falling asleep and snoring in meetings. That's like the complete, this complete opposite of a guy that you would think that Belichick would want to get, but.
He said he'd been asking out since the beginning of the year, though.
Current temperature feels like 8 degrees.
Get out of here.
Jeez Louise.
Get used to it.
I wonder why they didn't. Well, I guess they probably didn't want to release him because
of who he was.
Yeah.
They kept his side of it. Did you see his Instagram post where he unloaded everything?
Mm-mm.
He talks about it all in that. You should check it out. But he's even asking out since the beginning of the year because they originally promised him that he would get time. And he's like, listen, I don't have much years left. I don't have many years left or whatever, and I want to play as much as I can. And they said that they had him in his plans, but then they didn't play him. And each week where he didn't get played, he kept asking out. So.
TJ Watt, maybe Defensive Rookie of the Year. How dare they play him?
Oh yeah, that's the thing that he just didn't want to. If that's
it was a pride thing.
Exactly, and he knows that he's only got a limited amount of years left, and he wants to give it all he can. So that was his side of the story. But
Malik Jackson had an incentive for the Jaguars getting to 10 wins.
Cool.
Yeah, not that he needs it.
I do like laughing at all the people that laughed at Calais.
Well, and Barry Church too, remember? Well, obviously.
Who was that asshole that was on the Jaguars last year that when he got cut, he was on the beach and he was like, "This is my face when the Jacksonville Jaguars." Yes, that motherfucker. Is he even playing this year?
Nope.
Huh.
Not that I'm aware of, at least.
I didn't think that. Maybe in Miami? Did he get picked up in Miami?
No,
maybe he was in Miami.
Yeah, he was
when
first round
he
pick
made
of
that
Miami.
announcement. Because I remember seeing that photo of him like laughing about being cut by the Jaguars.
Yeah, didn't play this year.
Nope.
Imagine
who was that again?
Jared Odrick.
Oh, that's right.
Wasn't he the one that had the dreads in his hand?
I heard he was just not a nice guy in general.
He wasn't. The story I remember is, so for Helmets and Heels, we have Jaguars players.
Yeah.
And Amanda at the time was a beat reporter, and she'll go up to players, ask them if they want to be on. They obviously have every right to say no, but they all pretty much are like, sure. Audric said, "Do I get paid for it?" And she was like, "No." And he's like, "I'm absolutely not doing it unless I get paid." She's like, "It helps your notoriety."
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want him on our show.
Well, now he's not getting paid by anybody.
Yeah. That's funny. Rick tweeted out a stat that I read earlier in the show, and then Brent just tweeted out something that you said earlier in the show. I don't think they're listening, but I just think it's funny. I had so much more energy during last week's show, coming off of all those wins.
I'm exhausted today.
The game doesn't mean anything.
10 seconds.
So we have this attitude. I wonder how the players are.
Depressing, okay?
Ow, mother.
This is what I needed to pump me up. A little Metallica on a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
This will get you going, right, Tony?
Oh, heck yeah.
You'll run through the walls for this,
Metallica's
right?
my jam. Yeah, baby.
Absolutely. It is New Year's today, New Year's Eve today. We're on the brink of a new year. Any exciting plans for you after you finish work?
I'm planning on going over to a friend's house, hopefully to do some fireworks, although I'm not going late into the night. Jaguars Today is on tomorrow.
Yeah, you guys are the only ones who asked to be on.
We're doing the show, yeah. The announcement was made that the station would be doing bowl games all day for New Year's, and Mike and Tyler and I were like, well, wait. That's the first day we're going to know the playoff matchup for the Jags. Can we do a show?
Love it.
And, we got the okay. So
That's
Jaguars
cool.
Today from 10 to noon tomorrow.
I don't think there's a chance that the general manager would have said no.
No. I mean, considering all three of us would have been here during the hurricane. Like, Mike and Tyler could get here. There was literally a river running through my neighborhood. Like, I couldn't get out of the driveway, or I would have been here for the show that day, too. But we showed up for week one. We were all excited because they beat the heck out of the Texans. You think we're not showing up for the victory lap of a playoff matchup tomorrow? Oh, you gotta be kidding.
I remember when we did the show before that Houston Texans game, it was raining and storming out because the hurricane was going to come through that night. And I remember being like, I'm putting my life on the line for this Jaguars team that's about to get destroyed in Houston because of silly J.J. Watt and his raising money and all that emotion. So that could certainly be the 10-sack day against the Texans. That could certainly be on someone's list for the best moment of 2017. Blythe, what's yours?
My best, because I think that was my dad's best moment of the season was earlier in the year, because he actually got a little emotional during that Texans game.
I get it.
Because he said, he was like, we just don't get moments like this And then it happened, and it happened again and again and again all throughout the season. So we've gotten a bunch of those moments.
And we still had cable at the time, which was amazing because the hurricane was bearing down on us.
But my moment in particular, I've had a lot of emotional, negative moments when it comes to this team over the years. But the first time I've ever cried happy tears was during the Seattle game. And Russell Wilson had just hit that touchdown, and the Jaguars offense answered back, and Blake Bortles threw a 75-yard touchdown to Keelan Cole. And that moment, I literally had tears in my eyes because I was so happy. And that's the first time I can remember crying from a positive thing that the Jaguars have done. So that's got to be my moment.
I have that one on my list, but because you went with that one, I'll go with the Allen Hurns crawling off the field, getting that first down against the Chargers, and then now knowing the injury that he sustained was a high ankle sprain and the pain that he was in, but he was smart enough to crawl off the field so the Jaguars didn't have to burn any time. And the fact that the Jaguars beat the Chargers that day, to get the stink off of Phillip Rivers always destroying this team, that was a really big moment, I think, for this franchise, and winning that game in overtime, despite the fact that Blake had thrown those 2 picks in the final 2 minutes. That was a big one to me.
And just in the entire perspective of this season compared to the past 10 years, and I know we sort of I might have beaten this over the head, but it really is it's an unreal thing to see where we are as a fan base last year, even debating on whether or not to renew your season tickets, and then to come into this year reluctantly renew, and to think you're still going to go through the same BS, especially after that Titans loss at home and in week 2. That was just another one of those here we go again moments, and it's really been that this season is why you get season tickets and why you keep renewing.
Tony, what's your favorite moment from 2017?
Well, from the Jaguars. Those are both great, and they may be the top 2 for me, but to just be able to talk about something else, I can tell you.
Thank you, because we have another half hour.
I know. Maybe AJ Green losing his mind. That was pretty unbelievable. Like, just to see it happen live was pretty crazy. It's like, what is happening with AJ Green? Because I happen to know the reputation of AJ Green, and to see, and it's like I'm watching the replay of it, and I've heard the audio of it now. It's like Jalen didn't even say anything. Mm-mm. Like it was just a weird moment where AJ Green lost his mind. But honestly, for me, probably Telvin picking that ball off against Pittsburgh.
I was going to say that's one that we absolutely have to mention.
And starting the route of the Pittsburgh Steelers to get to that 30-9 victory, and maybe because it led to my favorite off-the-field moment that I've had this year, which was the Monday after that game against Pittsburgh when they won 30-9 and it got them to 3-2 after the loss to the Jets, and everyone's like, what is this football team? Mm-hmm. Well, I think the confidence in the city really swelled after they beat Pittsburgh the way they did. And it's like, are we really a contender? Like, if we're going to do this on the road against the Steelers, how legit is this football team right now, especially this defense? And it was at lunch that Monday when I'm sitting at a table at a restaurant here in town, and I can hear 5 different conversations going on around me, and it's everybody that I could hear was talking about what the Jags did to the Steelers the day before. That was the entire conversation going on around me at lunch, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, this city hasn't had this feeling or anything close to it since 2007, and I think it needs moments like that against the Steelers to reignite that kind of stuff for the average fan sitting in the city. But I think that ignited it, and I think what happened over the second half of the season has kept that fire going, and I think that's what you saw when they're going to release 1,500 more tickets and they're gone like that. I think that's what you're seeing is a fan base that these kind of things keep stoking the fire this year. It's the Seattle moment, right? It's finding a way to win that kind of game at home in combination with beating the Pittsburgh Steelers the way you did and winning 7 of 8 coming down the stretch and being alive for the bye week in the AFC and maybe the 1 seed going into Week 16. It's just stuff that fans haven't had a chance to talk to or talk about really since '99 in that kind of regard. And instead, they're a team that gets to go into a Week 17 matchup against their bitter rival with nothing on the line because those losers lost 3 in a row heading into this game, and you won the AFC South while they were losing.
Everything is on the line for Tennessee. Nothing is on the line for Jacksonville.
And it's this entire season has sort of led to where other fans are now seeing you in your Jags gear and asking you if you've jumped on the bandwagon. And you almost want to strangle them because they don't know the emotional abuse you've been through over the past 10 years. And how dare you accuse me of being a bandwagon fan?
People have actually done that to you?
Yes, I have seen. I've seen several people online, and then they'll ask, and just perfect strangers will be like, "Oh, did you just buy that hat? Did you just get that jersey?"
Okay.
And
So
it's like,
more of an online
"Excuse me,
thing.
excuse
You're so
me?"
cool because you never bought your first piece of gear either, loser.
How dare you?
Like, how dare you say that to any fan or presume to know anything about a fan base? But honestly, who cares when a person became a fan? Like, that kind of stuff has never mattered to me. I get that it matters within the fan base. To me, come join the party, man. Let's all do this as a city. And if everyone else in the entire nation wants to laugh at you, let them. You'll be laughing back. There's nothing to laugh at about this Jaguars team or fan base right now.
I think it's more or less that don't accuse me of being a bandwagon fan because of all of the mess that I've been through. That's what more affects me.
I get it. I don't accuse anyone of being a bandwagon fan. Nobody. Unless they're, like, legit. Like, Jordan DeArmond was legit bandwagon. Like, it was just whatever was going on right in front of her. That stuff aggravates me. Like, but if you live in the city of Jacksonville, I'm sorry, you're not bandwagon. That's not bandwagon. That's a fan base that's been beat down for 15 years. That's not bandwagon.
And not just on the field, but from a national media perspective of beating them down as far as their support.
By the way, it was fun yesterday at the Tax Slayer Bowl seeing people in the pools. And
they were
it was
heated.
obviously very cold, but yes, they are heated. It was also funny to me. There were a lot of both Louisville and Mississippi State fans in short sleeves or shorts. There was a guy that sat a couple seats down from us, and he was in both short sleeves and shorts. And he's like, "I thought it was going to be warm," and I was like, "Didn't you check the weather?" And he's like, "Well, I looked at it, but to me, 50+ degrees and sunny is really warm." And I was like, well, you can't trust that the sun's going to come out all the time. Obviously, it didn't until very late in that game yesterday. But also, like, I feel like it's a different cold here, you know? Like, it is really cold when it's in the 40s here. I don't know if people in Pennsylvania, if it feels that cold in the 40s.
Well, apparently when you live further south, and this is just what my mom has told me for years, but when you live further south, your blood is thinner. So you get colder more easily. So when people come down here, they don't get as cold by our temperatures. But if it's under 70 degrees, I am very dramatic about it. I mean, today I have several layers on. I have 4 t-shirts on. I have 2 pairs of pants, like thermal snow socks on. Yeah, it's slightly dramatic.
That is, especially because we're inside and it's 75 degrees in
Well, I'm
here.
comfortable now, but when I go outside, I'm just going to be angry, and my back is probably going to start hurting, and I'm going to clench my teeth. And
all right, so in the NFC, I'm going to rattle off the teams at the top. The Eagles, the Vikings, the Rams, and then the Saints and the Panthers and the Falcons are currently the 6
Falcons
top
in Seattle
seeds.
still alive for the 6.
Yeah. Which of those teams do you think poses the biggest threat to the Jaguars as far as matchups go?
Minnesota and the Rams.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about them against the Jags.
Well, because obviously that's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about them like a little bit against one another. Like trying to wrap my head around what I expect out of the NFC, and it's the playoffs. I think quarterback matters.
So the Saints.
More than any other position, which is why, if I had to choose one, I'd choose the Saints.
Their head coach, too. Sean Payton.
they've certainly been a team that's
and their run game has been unbelievable.
Yeah,
if they can run the ball with Drew Brees playing quarterback and the defense they played in the last month and a half, they're going to be a really tough out in the NFC. I think beyond that, for me, it'd be Minnesota.
Because
not the
they
Rams?
also have a great defense.
Not the Rams. There's just something about the Rams. I don't know what it is about them. I just don't trust them. Like Minnesota, I've watched this defense be this defense now for 3 years. But again, there's so many questions at all the other spots for all these teams. For whatever reason, like that new team, I can't quite get myself
young
behind
head
the
coach too.
Yeah.
There's one team that scares me, and that would be the Panthers. They're 11-4. I feel like they've kind of been quietly winning this whole season. But Cam Newton is, certainly one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I don't trust him after the Super Bowl performance. When he wouldn't dive on that fumble, that to me was the moment where you have this chance to win a Super Bowl and you're not willing to injure yourself or to even risk injury in order to dive on a fumble in the middle of a Super Bowl. That to me is like, no, I'm out on Cam Newton.
And his press conference after. And his press conferences this year haven't been much better either. What about the Falcons? If the Falcons make the playoffs, do the Falcons worry you?
Nah.
I think it's interesting because right now they'd be matched up against the Rams. And again, the Rams are kind of this team that I can't quite figure out where to place them. So, I mean, it's a team that obviously has the experience. They were in the Super Bowl last year. Teams that lose the Super Bowl, the hangover is real. Like, I don't think they're going to make a run through the NFC, but I think they're dangerous maybe in the wild card round for whoever winds up facing them. But I don't think the Falcons are built to make a big run. But again, I think in the NFC because, look, you look at the quarterbacks on the top 3 teams right now in the NFC. With Philadelphia, that's Nick Foles. With Minnesota, it's Case Keenum. With the Los Angeles Rams, it's Jared Goff. And then you look 4, 5, and 6 right now, and it's Drew Brees, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, those 3 teams are trying to hold off Drew Brees, Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan in the NFC. And at a time of year where I think that is the biggest trump card you can play, that's why I think it's the Saints right now if I had to pick one, because they just got the biggest trump card of anybody in the NFC.
We have one more segment to go, so we're going to make our picks, which will be a little bit difficult with this game mattering so much to Tennessee, not so much to Jacksonville. Also in the break, I'm going to try and get these TVs switched from bowling to some football.
Seriously.
Stay with us. You're listening to 1010XL.
Get the news, notes, and inside stuff.
Almost said helmets and notes.
You
Almost
guys want
did it.
Fox or CBS? Actually, we can probably get them on both.
I was going to say, yeah, if you get those on both, but yeah, thank you. I looked up during that segment and I was like, that guy's hair is awful.
Yeah, I don't even know
that
what's
throw. Almost done. I'm sure you find it funny when I'm like, what would you like to talk about in these segments? You're like, Lauren, I do 2 hours on the Jaguars, Monday through Friday. I don't need to plan what we're going to discuss.
You just throw it at me. I'll be fine.
Yep. But I'm a planning freak. Like, I woke up at 6:45 this morning and I was like, all right, I need to get the rundown sent out. I didn't do it yesterday. Because by the time I heard from Hayes, we were about to go to our friend's house. And I was like, I'll just do it in the morning. Nobody really needs it that badly. And then you were like, hey, did you send it? I was like, oh, no, see? I knew I should have already sent it.
Well, I knew we had those couple questions and I wasn't sure which ones we were going to go with. It was just those 2 segments because everything else is it's the same.
See, the show would have been really fun if I was at a tailgate in Nashville calling you guys a couple times and then teeth chattering. Hey guys, yeah, this is gonna be a big game today. That's what it would have sounded like. I hate the cold.
I don't mind it.
I'm done with the cold. Already, I'm ready for summer.
It's funny. I
turned the heat on at 62. That's where
that's at my programmable thermostat.
62?
62. Well, only during the day because it's still set from when I worked in an office during the day. So I would have it up to 70 though by the time I got home.
Okay. Nope. Yeah, we sleep.
That's what I sleep in.
With it like at 65. It's 67 when we're home, and then we sleep with it at like 65.
Yeah, I did turn it off last night. Just because I don't want to have a bunch of blankets on me. I like it to be cold when I'm sleeping, but not 60 degrees.
Yeah, I like it to be cold when I'm sleeping too. I just hate that moment when like you get dressed for bed and you're freezing, and then you get in bed, and other than Tony who has the electric blanket, the bed is cold. That first few minutes, I'm like, oh no, and then I'm like too much dressed, and then I have to like take off like socks and my sweatshirt after like an hour of sleeping. My parents have an electric blanket on their bed, too. Y'all are
pretty
smart.
Nice.
Yeah, y'all are smart. It really saves money, I would think, right? Even though it's using some energy for the...
I mean, yeah, like... I mean, my house doesn't get down to 62 very often.
Yeah, that's true.
So...
What was the temperature last night? What was the low?
I don't even know. I don't ever look.
See what it is tonight.
I know it was 60-something in my house when I turned on the heat.
But like I like 50s. This is
currently
fine.
Oh, it's 58 out. Oh, that's yeah. I always say the hardest temperature to get dressed for is in the 60s. Because if it's like 60s and sunny, You don't need. You don't even need like the sweatshirt.
This is
If
40s, 50s, 60s. This is all I need.
Oh, it's gonna rain tonight? Oh, we're supposed to have a fire. That's not what I wanted to see. So the high on Wednesday is 41.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's
the high.
good.
The low is
supposed to snow, I think, on Wednesday.
Low on Thursday is 29.
Or there's a chance of snow.
I don't need no snow.
I don't need no damn snow.
Snow can stay away.
I'm not driving in snow.
I was about to say, I can't, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting on the, like, I will
No.
tell Steve, no.
Yeah, no.
I'm not getting on the road in this city in snow.
No, the city can't drive in rain.
No.
Hey Matt, what
I
time
put my
do you
life
want
on the
us
line
to
every day to go to work. Today, it's too much of a risk.
I had a
328.
girlfriend
like,
who
a little
was
bit at
at the
127
time we were
or so.
both living the hockey lifestyle.
3 minutes out.
Her
Yeah,
husband
that's
though
perfect.
is
Thank
from
you.
Detroit, and so they lived up in Detroit over the summer. And I use summer in quotes because it still freaking snows up there. And what happened is that she was working a waitressing job, and it snowed that day, and she'd never driven in snow before. And so she called into work, and she was like, "Is the restaurant still open today?" And they laughed at her. They said, "No, you still come into work when it snows." And she's like, "I don't know what to do."
Oh,
she had to
up
get
north,
her.
yeah.
She had to get her fiance to drive her to work.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Up north, yeah. Around here, man, we got that dusting, and there were cars just sliding off the road. Like, our roads aren't designed for
No.
it at all.
30 seconds.
And we don't have the
Thank you.
infrastructure as far as like the salt trucks and all.
No.
There was snow. There ain't
I'm
no
not
way.
driving in snow. I'm right there with you. Oh, that's fun. I just got an email that Velvet is in, and I'm wearing a velvet dress for New Year's Eve tonight. Look at me, fashion forward, never. We'll get to it in just a second. I just realized, Tony, you told us what you're doing for your New Year's, but Blythe, I didn't get to you.
Oh, well, I'm going to watch the game at my brother's place, and so we've already sort of mapped out that it's just going to be an eating festival. So we're going to stop by Safe Harbor after the show is over, and they have these lobster tails that are pretty much the size of my bicep, probably bigger than my bicep. And so we're going to get a few lobster tails, we're going to get some lumpia, and some steaks, and so it's going to be a lot of really good food to bring in the new year. And the Jaguars game.
Yeah, sounds delicious. We're going to go over to a friend's house, watch the game, and then all the girls are getting dressed up so we can take cute pictures. And then we'll all change and hang out by the fire unless it rains. That's going to put a bit of a damper on the plans. But I saw the pork butts that were on the grill this morning around 7:30 in the morning. So I'm excited to eat some pork butt later on tonight. All right, lock of the week. Tony, I'll start with you. Who you got?
Let me look it up here. Lock of the week, the New England Patriots over the Jets.
I have that one too. Surprise, surprise, Blythe.
Yeah, they're up a touchdown early, by the way.
I'm going to go with my lock of the week is Minnesota over the Bears. The Bears are one of those teams that are probably going to fire their head coach tomorrow on Black Monday. So, yeah, give me Minnesota for sure.
Yeah, the Jets are starting Bryce Petty. Tom Brady v. Bryce Petty?
I feel like that's a NASCAR name.
No shot.
Kind of is.
By the way, the Bears and the Browns, our prediction last week, our upset pick of the Browns winning their first game, beating the Bears, not even close.
No.
The Bears destroyed them.
Cleveland.
Those Browns are
y'all want
so
Cleveland
bad.
to get good? You know how much fun
No,
I've had?
I don't want to.
I've had laughing at Cleveland. Cleveland this week had a head coach who could technically not fill out a promise. He promised last year, Hugh Jackson did, that if the Cleveland Browns went 1-15 again, that he would jump in Lake Erie, right? Like, he made that promise. Well,
they're playing the Steelers today.
They're playing the Steelers today, and they're not going to finish 1-15.
No.
They're going to finish 0-16, which fans were like, well, you said 1-15. So Hugh Jackson could back out of jumping in Lake Erie because his team didn't fulfill the lofty expectations of winning 2 games.
Well,
and
that
winning
brings me to my upset
3
pick.
games and winning 3 games in his tenure in Cleveland. They couldn't get to 3 for you. Why don't we keep this guy around?
You know Gus Bradley's over there going, keep Hugh Jackson.
1 more year, baby.
Keep Hugh Jackson.
1 more year. Replace me on the futility list.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Blythe, you just referenced your upset pick. Are you going to go with the Browns over the Steelers?
I said last week that I feel bad for the Browns and their fans, even though they got LeBron James, and that's another sport entirely. But I just feel bad whenever football fans can enjoy at least 1 win per year. We've been there before as Jaguar fans, where we've had losing seasons. So I really want them to win, so I'm going to pick them to upset the Steelers, even though it's not going to happen, but I'm going to pick them.
All right, an emotional pick. What about your upset pick? Is yours emotional, Tony?
I just wanted to fill you in that the Browns are down 7-0 early.
So it's all going according to plan.
Pittsburgh Steelers, and Deshaun Kaiser hasn't attempted a pass yet because both times he dropped back, he's been sacked.
Huh.
Their passing numbers are officially -20 as a team.
Just as I
predicted. It's probably the temperature, too.
1 rush for 2 yards. Darius Hayward-Bay on the 29-yard rush. They're throwing Darius Hayward-Bay on the ground at the Cleveland Browns today, and it looks
just
like
all
it may
according
be
to plan, Tony.
It
All
may be
according to
enough,
plan.
Today against the lowly Browns. For me, my upset today, because Green Bay usually always beats Detroit, I'll take Green Bay beating Detroit in a game that means nothing for either side. So both of my games, excitingly enough, in the window that means nothing today in the NFL, likely the 1 o'clock window. Hooray for the 7 games. I think 2 of them have any kind of playoff implication.
I know.
With the Steelers and the Patriots just basically determining who's going to be the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's got to suck not playing in the primetime hour.
Well, and the Steelers aren't even going to play anybody today.
No, they're resting all their guys. They're
Even
throwing
though,
Darius Hayward-Bay at the Browns.
Yeah, because they looked up and they said the Jets are not going to beat the Patriots. I will go
Andrew Jones, 3 of 5 for 14 yards with a pick. Good enough for a 7-0 lead over the Cleveland Browns.
I will go with the Texans on the road over the Colts because a loss actually helps Indianapolis in terms of draft status. If the Colts lose, they'll clinch the number 3 pick and could even get the number 2 pick if the Giants win. That's a whole nother conversation.
Giants are up 12-0.
The Giants
are putting it on the Redskins.
I guarantee you the Colts are going to try and lay down and let the Texans win and then improve their draft
They've
stock.
done it before.
Colts are down 3-0.
They did it in Jacksonville. All right, and finally, the Jaguars-Titans game, one of the hardest ones to pick for us all year because you don't really know what's going to happen. Is head coach Doug Marrone going to actually really keep the starters in the whole game? We shall see. Blythe, who you got?
There's 0 chance I am picking the Titans to win this game. And it's another emotional pick for me, but I said earlier in the show that I want the Jaguars to rip the heart out of the Titans fans, Kali Ma style, and show it to the rest of their fans, and then watch as they get buried in the pits of hell.
Well, there you go.
Happy New Year.
If
Titans.
the Jaguars lose to the Chargers next weekend, I will come back and say that was wrong.
Oh, my goodness.
Tony, what you got?
This game, man. Like
You're just ready for this day to be over so you can talk about the wild card.
I really am. I'm ready for the
I get
matchup. Like, I just...
Sunday night, tonight, at 8 o'clock.
Trying to figure out how much the guys in this locker room care is really difficult. I mean, Doug Marrone has said all the right things this week. Like, I don't disagree with anything that Doug Marrone has said. You know, we're going to go out and try to win this game. Well, of course. Like, whoever you put on the field ought to be playing to win on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. But I just... Because I can't get emotionally behind it, it's one of these where it's really difficult for me to try to even predict how the game is going to go. Tennessee's got everything on the line. I think Tennessee, after losing 3 in a row, like I said, I think they're waiting for the avalanche. And I think I still think the Jags could win this game without playing their guys. Like, I really do. I think they could beat the Titans without playing them because of how on the edge the Titans have to be in this football game today, and I don't think the temperament of this team is a very good one to play on the edge because they've had to do it for the last 2 weeks, and they lost the last 2 weeks. So for me, going into this one, making a pick, I'll take the Jags, let's say 23-13, something like that today over the Titans in Nashville.
I'm very close to yours. I've got the Jaguars 21, Titans 17. I do think the starters play. I can't quite figure out how long. But I don't think they last the whole game. But I think by halftime the game will be determined, and the Titans will just be a mess in the second half. So I do think we'll see some Chad Henne in this football game today, which is a good sign. That means that the Jaguars are locked in for next week. So tonight, around 8 o'clock, is when the Jaguars will find out who next weekend's opponent is, and we'll figure out what day and what time. Most people think Saturday, 4:30 will be the time. So if that's the case, then our show will be on around the same time as today, which will be 11 to 1:30, is what I'm assuming, if all goes according
That's wild.
to the past plan. But yeah, remember, in July, when we were planning this kickoff show, the general manager, Steve Griffin, sent all of us an email and said, plan on one home playoff game.
I laughed in his face when he said that.
Me too. And I found that email and it resurfaced. I sent it to everybody and was like, he called it.
I laughed in his face when he said that.
So, and not just, and you know, he may not have said home playoff game. He may just said playoff game.
No, I'm predicting playoffs. He said it in an email and he said it at our
But it may not have been.
Yeah,
he wasn't necessarily predicting home. That would have been even crazier if he got that part right. But either way, we have made it. It has been a 15-game season so far. The 16th game is today, and it doesn't matter. The Jaguars are AFC South champions. Do you have any AFC South gear yet, Blythe?
No, I'm sort of on the same fence with Tony. Like I almost feel weird buying AFC South championship stuff, but then I almost want to because we haven't. This is the first time we've ever won the AFC South, so I don't know. I go back and forth with it. If somebody gifted it to me, then I would happily take it. But the
so you're hoping Stan's listening.
Well, no, I did buy some new Jaguars gear yesterday, and it had nothing to do with AFC South championship stuff. I don't want to celebrate that kind of thing until it's more significant than just AFC South.
Sure, until the season's over.
So you know.
1 minute.
Yep.
Look, and my thing has always been, it's not that I'm not going to buy a division championship gear. It's I'm going to buy it after my team does whatever they do in the playoffs. Yeah. And I'll still buy the division stuff, even if I got Super Bowl stuff. Like, I'll buy all
that
of it.
too.
You know, it's not like it's gone. It's not going to be available to me just because they advance further in the playoffs. Sure. Get it all, man.
Get it. I can't wait to see the atmosphere next weekend at Tailgaters. We will tweet out when we will be there. Hope you join us for the wild card playoff tailgating scene. Thanks to our producer, Matt LeVay at 1010XL. Headquarters right here with us. For Blythe Brumleve and Tony Smith, I'm Lauren Brooks. Enjoy your game day, and stay tuned for the Publix Tailgate Show with Mike Dempsey and JP Shadrick from up in Nashville. That's next on 1010XL.
Thanks, YouTube. We'll see you next, maybe Saturday or Sunday, the pregame show. Go Jags.